Could you please call the roll?
Yes. Saltzman?
Here.
Udaly?
Here.
Fritz?
Here.
Wheeler? Fish?
Here. Good morning, everybody. We have a packed agenda, and we're going to start with communications. Carla, would you please read?
Opening statement.
Did you want the?
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Yes, we have an opening statement from our esteemed council.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Welcome to Portland City Council. The City Council represents all Portlanders and meets to do the city's business. The presiding officer preserves order and decorum during City Council meetings so everyone can feel welcome, comfortable, respected, and safe. To participate in council meetings, you may sign up in advance with the council clerk's office for communications to briefly speak about any subject. You may also sign up for public testimony on resolutions or the first readings of ordinances. Your testimony should address the matter being considered at the time. When testifying, please state your name for the record. Your address is not necessary. Please disclose if you are a lobbyist. If you are representing an organization, then please identify it. The presiding officer determines the length of testimony. Individuals generally have 3 minutes to testify unless otherwise stated. When you have 30 seconds left, a yellow light goes on, and when your time is done, then you'll see a red light. If you are in the audience and would like to show your support for something that is said, please feel free to do a thumbs up. If you want to express that you do not support something, please feel free to do a thumbs down. Disruptive conduct, such as shouting or interrupting testimony or council deliberations, will not be tolerated. If there are disruptions, a warning will be given that further disruption may result in the person being ejected for the remainder of the meeting. After being ejected, a person who fails to leave the meeting is subject to arrest for trespass. Thank you for your help. Thank you for helping your fellow Portlanders feel welcome, comfortable, respected, and safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have 5 people who've signed up for council communications. Each person will get 3 minutes, and all you need to do is give us your name. Carla, would you please start with council item 356?
Request of Kimberly McCullough to address council regarding Portland Police Bureau cooperation with the FBI and membership in the Joint Terrorism Task Force.
Yes. Why don't you read council item 357, and we'll have Mr. German join her as well.
357, request of Michael German to address council regarding Portland Police Bureau cooperation with the FBI and membership in the Joint Terrorism Task Force.
And Mr. German, we have your full statement, which will be made part of the record. Welcome both.
Good morning, Commissioner Fish and members of the council. My name is Kimberly McCullough. I am the policy director at the ACLU of Oregon. The ACLU of Oregon is part of a broad coalition of many organizations and endorsers that have renewed a campaign to end Portland's participation in the Joint Terrorism Task Force. You may recall that several of us testified back on November 8th of last year, and I'd like to refer you to the testimony we submitted at that time. I would be happy to email it to you all again if you would like that for your reference. It outlines the history of Portland's relationship and at points the lack thereof with the JTTF. As you may recall, we also submitted a letter to council at that time, and I have now submitted an updated letter that has additional campaign endorsers added. Your other guest speaker this morning, Michael German, has also submitted testimony, as you just noted. Some of you may also remember that he was here back in 2011. We asked Mike German to join us today and to speak to you because he is a preeminent expert on national security. He's a fellow with the Brennan Center for Justice's Liberty and National Security Program, which seeks to ensure that our government respects human rights and fundamental freedoms in conducting the fight against terrorism. His work focuses on law enforcement and intelligent oversight and reform. He is a 16-year veteran of federal law enforcement, and he served as a special agent with the FBI, where he specialized in domestic terrorism and covert operations. He also served as a counterterrorism instructor at the FBI National Academy. He became what I would describe as a whistleblower in 2004 when he became aware of serious problems and deficiencies in the FBI's counterterrorism operations, many of which failed to keep the public safe while at the same time violating the civil rights and liberties of our communities. He reported those deficiencies to Congress, and then he resigned. He then began lecturing on counterterrorism and intelligence matters and served as an adjunct professor of law enforcement and terrorism at the National Defense University. He then joined the ACLU's Washington, D.C. Legislative Office staff in 2006. As I mentioned already, he's now with the Brennan Center's Liberty and National Security Program. We're both cognizant of the fact that we have very limited time with you here today, so I do encourage you to read Mike's testimony. I also want to note that it really is just the tip of the iceberg, and we would be happy to provide you with additional supporting materials and also to your staff. And I would like to acknowledge and thank the council members who have taken the time to either meet with us personally or to have your staff meet with us since our campaign began last November. I'm going to end here and let Mike speak, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. German, welcome.
Thank you. And thanks again for having me here. I appreciate being invited back. When I worked on the Joint Terrorism Task Forces in the early 1990s, I worked under a standard that is very similar to the standard in the Oregon statute. I needed to have a reasonable indication that somebody was involved in criminal activity or would soon be involved in criminal activity in order to justify targeting them for investigation. And what I found working cases, including undercover cases against very hard targets like neo-Nazis and anti-government militias, was that this standard was not just something that was there to protect civil liberties and the privacy of innocent people, but actually made me more effective as an investigator, because it forced me to have the discipline of documenting what evidence I had about every individual I was coming across to make sure that what was directing my investigations was evidence and not bias. You know, if there was somebody who said something that frightened me, if there was somebody who looked very scary to me, didn't matter if I couldn't put down on a piece of paper the evidence necessary to target them. And that is what made my cases effective, because at every turn I was being forced to turn back towards where the evidence lay. And that's why after 9/11, when the FBI immediately started reducing those standards, first through the Patriot Act by removing some of the guidelines on foreign intelligence collection powers, then through the Attorney General guidelines, which are the rules that govern the FBI, I became very concerned that this would be used to target the usual suspects, immigrant communities, communities of color, and political dissidents. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. When I first got hired as a consultant by the ACLU, it was to look over some JTTF documents where a number of groups, including groups like Greenpeace and the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, were being targeted by Joint Terrorism Task Force investigations. Unfortunately, the guidelines since those events have actually gotten looser to where there is now, under the 2008 guidelines instituted by Michael McCasey, no factual predicate required for the FBI to conduct what they call assessments, which can include recruiting informants and sending informants against you, overt and covert interviews, grand jury subpoenas to get telephone subscriber information. These are very intrusive tools. And what we've seen is they are used remarkably against political activists. And you might have seen this summer, the FBI put out a report, or it leaked out, because they don't put a lot of these reports out, on black identity extremists that seem to be describing the Black Lives Matter movement. And sure enough, many of these Black Lives Matter activists have been targeted with these interviews. So I know my time is up, but I appreciate your attention.
Well, Commissioner Fritz and I think both remember when you were here in 2011. Thank you for joining us today. And again, your full statement is part of the record. Thank you, sir.
Great, thank you.
Carla, would you please read Council Item 358?
Request of Stephanie Hansen to address council regarding the housing crisis.
Is Ms. Hansen here? Okay, let's do Council Item 359.
Request of Daryl Garner to address council to request the city vacate a strip of land at 84 Northeast Killingsworth to allow more affordable housing units.
Mr. Garner, are you here? Yes. Please come forward. Welcome. We just need your full name, and you have 3 minutes, sir.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Daryl Garner. I'm here on behalf of the property owners at 84 Northeast Killingsworth. When I signed up, I was signing up to speak with you regarding a vacation of the right-of-way, which the city has right in front of the property. It's about an 8-foot strip of land, about 100 feet wide, or 200 feet wide. Since then, D. Walker has reached out to me to document our efforts to obtain management support for a city-initiated vacation. The issue is non-owner occupied. The owners of properties who don't occupy the properties, they're very non-responsive. And so for the last 3 years, we've been working on obtaining signatures from people who do not occupy properties, and it's next to impossible to even get a response or an objection or a signature. And so with that said, we would ask for the commission's support of a management or the city's initiated vacation.
So, sir, just for my own edification, so does that fall within the Bureau of Development Services?
No, I don't believe so. I think PBOT, D. Walker says.
PBOT.
Right.
Okay. So, Commissioner Saltzman, is this on your radar?
It is now.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you for coming forward. Dan's the Transportation Secretary. It's
Okay.
now been brought to his attention.
Okay,
and
well, thank you.
he'll look into it.
Okay,
Thank you,
appreciate
sir,
it.
for joining
Thank
us.
you.
Carla, we have one more request, item number 360.
Request of D. White to address council regarding dangerous levels of lead in our drinking water.
Morning, Ms. White.
Hello. Hello, my name is Dee White. I'm sorry and sad to report that among all large cities in the U.S., Portland continues to lead with dangerous lead levels in our drinking water. We're number one. There's no safe level of lead. Lead is tasteless, odorless, and invisible. It is well documented how the effects of lead poisoning on babies and young children, even at low-level exposure, are profound and irreversible. And now a new Lancet study estimates that more than 400,000, that's 18%, of all adult deaths in the U.S. every year can be linked to chronic lead exposure. The American Academy of Pediatrics has called for no more than 1 part per billion in drinking water. The FDA requires bottled water to be less than 5 parts per billion. Lead tests in Portland last year showed the highest level was 59 parts, 59 parts per billion. The year before that, it was 648 parts per billion. Portland Water Bureau has exceeded the EPA's limit twice during the past 18 months. While Flint, Michigan suffered acute lead exposure 4 years ago, Portlanders have endured chronic levels of lead for the past 25 years. We have a silent public health crisis going on here. The federal lead and copper rule requires water suppliers to fix corrosive water so that lead levels are maintained at the tap. This is your legal responsibility, not the homeowners, not the schools, not the businesses. Over the past 20 years, you have known this, but have not fixed it, or you simply don't know what you're doing. We have a silent public health crisis going on here. How are citizens supposed to know otherwise that Portland Water Bureau or the Portland Water Commissioner, who is up for re-election, have not informed the public what we deserve to know? What kind of hold you guys have over the Oregon Health Authority that they have been so silent? I am beginning to question the relationship between the Oregon Health Authority's role as regulator of the Water Bureau. Who is watching whom? This is a failure of leadership at all levels, the city, the county, and the state, but you all are the ones who are responsible. I will end with a comment made by former Representative, now Senator Tammy Duckworth at the 2016 House Oversight Committee on Flint. Would you not rather have jumped in too soon, despite the law, to protect the children of Flint and be hauled into Congress to testify about why you stepped in too quickly to safeguard health, as opposed to why you didn't act soon enough?
Thank you, Ms. White. Before I turn the gavel over to back to the mayor, and we're going to acknowledge, do a special proclamation for the Grant boys basketball team. Mayor, I just want to briefly respond to something Ms. White just said, because I think it's important in a public forum like this that we get our facts right. We have no lead problem in our source water or our distribution. This is not an exchange D. You're not welcome back to the days.
Well, you're not welcome to have the last
You're not.
word.
I can have the last word.
Yes.
So I am. So because we keep having misleading information put in the public record, on this one instance, I have to correct it. We do not have lead problem in our source water or distribution system. We've removed the lead pigtails. We're one of the few cities who has done that. We do have so-called high-risk homes with bad plumbing and faucets, and in a small subset of those homes, we are working with homeowners to take precautions. That the only safe response is to take the lead out of the plumbing. That's why water fountains are being replaced in the high schools and the public schools, and that is the safest option is to remove the lead that's in the household plumbing, which for a number of years has failed to meet the building code. That is the only way we can once and for all fix this problem. But the idea that there is lead in either the source water or the distribution system is false. Well, I said it. Mayor, I'm going to turn it back over to you so that we can
I can hardly wait.
we can honor the champion high school basketball team.
Very good. And are we ready to do that, Commissioner?
I think we have a coach here.
Very good. Commissioner Fish. Or am I calling?
No, it's Dan.
Commissioner Saltzman. And by the way, before Dan speaks, I'm sorry I was late this morning. We have a mayor visiting from the Ukraine upstairs, and as mayor, it is my pleasure as well as my obligation to greet visiting dignitaries. For those of you who spoke during communications and I was not able to hear your communications, you have my word. I will both read your written testimony as well as watch the videotaped record, and I apologize I could not be here. Commissioner Saltzman.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, we're delighted today to honor the Grant High School boys basketball team who won the 6A championship. And we have a proclamation here, and we have their coach, Robert Key, is here today to accept our proclamation. And why don't I read the proclamation, and Mr. Key, if you have a few words, we'd welcome that.
Sure.
Whereas on Saturday, March 10th, 2018, the Grant High School boys basketball team defeated Jefferson 63-62 to win the Oregon 6A state championship title. And whereas the Grant boys basketball team impressed in the regular season with a strong 25 wins and 4-loss record, whereas the Grant boys basketball team earned the #2 seed in the 2018 6A boys state championship, and whereas this is the Grant boys basketball program's first state title in 10 years, and whereas the city of Portland would like to recognize Darius Gwynn, Aaron Delani, Damon Hickok, Marcus Harris, August Pratt, Miles Morrow, Eric Frazier, Grant Ewell Jr., Ty Rankin, Aiden Martin, DeMarcus Singleton, Kelton Samore, head coach Robert Key, assistant coach Lee Anthony Orr for their historic win in the 2018 6A boys state championship game. And whereas the Grant students continue to inspire the community and set a positive example with their good sportsmanship, hard work, and dedication. Whereas Grant alumni continue to give back to their school and community, and whereas the city celebrates the 2018 championship win by the Portland's own Grant boys basketball team, and whereas the city of Portland recognizes that this championship would not have been possible without the support of parents, teachers, coaches, administrators, and community members. Now therefore I, Ted Wheeler, the mayor, the city of Portland, or the city of Roses, do hereby proclaim April 18th, 2018 to be Grant High School Basketball Day in Portland, and encourage all residents to observe that day.
Thank you,
Congratulations.
Dan. We can suspend the rules.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for having me this morning on the behalf of Grant High School and our student athletes. I'd like to say thank you. This year's been a very, very exciting year. Just 2 days ago, one of my players has been U.S. Today Player of the Year, Aaron Deloney, as a junior for Grant High School. With that being said, it's big for our community. This is going into my 5th year at Grant High School, and I hope this is one of many.
Well, congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
And we do have a proclamation. Do you want to do a picture?
Yeah. Would you mind if we had a photo with you up front? Fantastic.
Right up here.
You bring the trophy, we'll bring the proclamation. Yes, sir.
Maybe a little bit of this magic will rub off on the trailblazers.
Thank you, Brad.
Thanks.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Good morning, Carla.
Good morning, Mayor.
Have any items been pulled off the consent agenda?
We've had no pulls.
Please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaly.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The consent agenda is adopted. Time certain 361, please.
Revised residential solid waste and recycling collection rates and charges effective May 1, 2018.
Colleagues, the residential solid waste rate ordinance is for garbage, recycling, and composting collection rates for residential customers. The proposed rate increases include an increase of $2.55 per customer per month. While it is an increase this year, the city has not raised these rates for several years. We've held them flat or lowered them over the past 5 years. The proposed increase is due primarily to higher recycling, processing costs, and barriers brought on by recent restrictions from international recycling importers. These unprecedented recycling market conditions are not reflected in the current rates. We do not anticipate any significant rate increases in the coming years. In fact, we anticipate a local market to emerge to meet our recycling needs. This is an emergency ordinance to allow new rates to go into effect as soon as May 1st. Susan Anderson with the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability is here, obviously, to share the findings from this year's solid waste review and the proposed rates. Good morning and welcome.
Morning.
Good morning.
As the mayor said, Susan Anderson, Director of the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, and Bruce Walker, the Recycling and Solid Waste Manager. And as the mayor said, we're here to talk about rates for residential recycling and composting and garbage. And you'll notice that I said garbage last, and that's because in Portland we recycle or compost about 2/3 of all of our waste, and only 1/3 goes to the landfill. And that's double what the rest of the country is doing on average, so we should be proud about that. So we're here to request a rate increase for residential service. In Portland, residential service is provided by a dozen private franchise companies. To come up with the rate, we do a very deep analysis each year. We work with an independent CPA to review each of the haulers' financial records. We look at their costs of service, labor, trucks, fuel, insurance, and so on, and then we propose rates to cover those costs. These rates are only for single-family homes, for duplexes, triplexes, and fourplex. Apartment buildings and commercial properties are served by commercial haulers, and the owners of those buildings can choose the hauling company that they want and any service level that they want, and the city doesn't set those rates. So the history on residential rates is that, as the mayor mentioned, for the past several years, rates have been basically flat and have even gone down a little bit. And even though there were increases in fuel and some labor costs and such, those cost increases were actually covered by the sale of the recycled materials. And that's been true pretty much since the beginning. Bruce can tell you, because I think he was here at the beginning. And that's been true actually until this year. So what's changed? The primary change is that the cost of recycling has increased. China and other international markets are requiring that we do a better job of keeping the recycled materials clean. which sort of makes sense. This in turn, though, does mean an increase in labor costs at the recycling center. So I'm going to let Bruce talk about that in just a minute. But first, if you look at the slide here, coming up.
Should be up.
There you go.
Is closed captioning working out there? Can you see it on the screen?
Yes,
now?
it's on.
Okay, thank you.
So this slide shows different service levels and the proposed rates for each. We're proposing a $2.55 increase per month for all households. More than half of the households are in the third and fourth line down at 32 or 35 gallon service. That means they get every other week garbage service and every week recycling and composting collection. The increase is from $29.25 to $31.80. The Planning and Sustainability Commission met earlier this month, and they are responsible with recommending rates to council. They held a hearing and unanimously approved the rate changes to forward on to you all. So any questions about the rates in there, in that table?
Don't we have a 20-gallon roll cart every 4 weeks?
No, not on the every 4 week.
You can have a regular size every 4 weeks, or you can have the 20 every other week.
Interesting, thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have any sense of rates relative to other cities of similar size? Thank you.
We can come back with that. It's pretty similar. They've done it over time, and I'll show you on the next slide here. You can see that the rates have been really stable for a long time. The blue line shows the actual rates for the past 5 years, and then the new rate of $31.80. And you can see, in fact, that for this year's current rate of $29.25, our rates are still below what they were 5 years ago. So a lot of that is due to the amazing recycling that our residents do. The red line there shows what rates would be if we had just done it by inflation. And that's why, to answer your question a little bit, a lot of cities just go by inflation in terms of raising rates. We've always done a much deeper dive and looked at cost of service in terms of how we set our rates. But you can see if we just gone along with the rate of inflation, rates would actually be higher. I guess the last thing to mention is that we're not alone in this dilemma. It's everywhere in the U.S. And locally, Gresham, Hillsborough, Washington County, Clackamas County, they're all doing the same process a little bit earlier and raising rates early. It's really important and really just fair for our haulers. Many of our haulers are small family-owned companies. They can't take this kind of rate hit for very long, and we need to move on this rather quickly. Usually we would do the rates along with water and sewer, and so water and BES in a couple months, but we're doing it now so that we can put rates into effect May 1st.
Commissioner Fritz.
I was at the Metro Policy Advisory Committee meeting several months ago, and there was some talk at Metro about doing something locally about providing recycling. Has anything moved forward with that?
I'm going to let Bruce talk a little bit about what the potential is. You know, our hope, of course, is that the markets potentially could move back to the U.S., and a lot of markets have begun to open up in other Asian countries besides just China, is a great job generator. And so I think it is really something that we should connect with our economic development departments.
Good morning. For the record, I'm Bruce Walker, the Solid Waste and Recycling Program Manager for the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability. So I'll touch on Commissioner Fritz's question as I get through some of the points, but I think it's really important to recognize that, as Susan mentioned, the excellent recycling and composting habits Portlanders have helped keep the solid waste rates low by diverting for environmental benefits of composting and recycling. We've helped reduce those costs over time, and as the mayor mentioned, our rates have been flat or steady for some decreases or steady over the past several years. Historically, the revenue from the sale of recyclables related or helped offset increases for the other rate components, but due to the market conditions we've mentioned, it's put some substantial newer costs into our system. About $2 of the $2.55 proposed rate increase is directly related to recycling market conditions. As a reminder, recyclable materials are a commodity used by manufacturers throughout the world. When recyclables are used to make new products, it reduces the use of natural resources and saves energy and water in the manufacturing process. While many Oregon and Pacific Northwest manufacturers use recyclable materials, some unsorted paper and plastics have primarily been exported to China for manufacturing there. China has recently adopted broad environmental and economic policies aimed at reducing environmental impacts. As part of these measures, China notified recycling companies around the world that they will be only importing recyclable materials that meet unexpectedly high quality standards. These new higher standards require recycling facilities to slow their sorting lines and hire more people to further sort the materials. These steps have significantly increased facility operating costs. And we've come together, recyclers, haulers, the State Department of Environmental Quality, Metro. There's an active group working on these issues. As Susan mentioned, we've included the State Economic Development Business Oregon in these discussions because it's international commerce that we're working with, and we're feeling the brunt of it. Not just us, but throughout the country, throughout Europe, the impacts of these market conditions have affected company recycling operations. Beginning last fall, the fees that the local garbage and recycling companies had to pay to drop off their recycling at sorting facilities reached record high levels. These high costs are not covered in the current rates. There are some other factors that are putting upward pressure on the rates. Inflation has increased labor and fuel prices, and disposal fees levied by Metro on garbage disposed at transfer stations has also increased. But the primary issue that's forcing this rate increase is the recycling conditions.
Could I ask you just sort of two broad questions that have been on my mind? The first is, what accommodations, if any, do we make for low-income customers? And the second is really, maybe it's a geopolitical question. I really didn't understand until a year and a half ago how dependent the entire recycling market in the United States was on China as the in-sourcer of all of this material. Is there a long-term industry strategy? I assume China will grow, but the industry is really heavily dependent on one nation and their development curve. And I'm wondering, is there any discussion about creating more recycling processing facilities domestically? I mean, what's the dynamic of the market on the whole, and what's, say, the 10-year outlook? What are people saying?
If we had gone back in time 10 or 15 years ago, we would have never thought it would have been China. We were doing all the paper recycling here. We had, a lot of the paper recycling facilities actually were in the Northwest. And it's just a matter of, labor costs and things have shifted over time. But I think the pendulum's going to swing back a little bit in terms of there is still so much supply of recycled materials that there will be companies that are going to show up nationally and internationally to fill in this market. Okay. So I think it's, it's sort of, at this point, they were kind of in charge because they are the ones with the facilities that, and to get that kind of investment back in it. But I do think it's something, and we're really thrilled to be seeing Business Oregon actually look at this as a potential for job growth.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. And then with regard to lower income folks?
Before I get to that, just one other add-on is not all material goes to China. There's glass, for example, that we keep separate in our program. It's collected from households. That goes out to the Owens, Illinois plant right by the airport. There's cardboard. There are 3 mills, 2 in Oregon, 1 in Washington. So there's many materials still get recycled here, but there's substantial quantities that have been exported that need to look for additional markets, and that's where the opportunity, the market dynamic that you mentioned seems to be opening up, and there's tremendous interest in this, but it doesn't happen overnight with the substantial investment.
Sure, thanks, Bruce.
Now to your question about low income, our program requires that in any rental unit, the landlord pays the bill. So that's our mechanism to assure that service is delivered and that the tenant is not charged directly. Now, that I'm not trying to sidestep and say, well, of course, a rate increase would be passed along to tenants, but our mechanism is to provide that the owner of the property be the one who charges or pays those bills.
But we haven't done a low-income rate.
And that's why I asked, you know, where are we compared to some of our national comparators? And I'd just be curious to get that information.
Sure, we can pull that for you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
So were you through with your presentation?
Yeah, I think the only thing last to say is that if I were to be here next year, I'm hoping next year that we can come back and show rates go back down a little bit, you know, because I do think that as the markets change, and it's the beauty of how we do our rates, is we're not just going by inflation, we're actually digging in and looking at the cost of service, and I think that makes a difference.
So the issue is that our exports to China, our paper and plastics are contaminated, right? By standards, quality standards. We don't meet specs. So yeah, what is it that, I just thought you could educate us, what is it that contaminates our paper products and our plastic recycling, our plastics?
So that's an excellent question. So one of the things is leave out the takeout. Don't put any takeout containers, the clamshells, the plastic clamshell takeout containers, plastic cups, paper cups, coffee cups, anything like that should not go in the cart. So we intend to do some intensive re-education, additional work to notify customers. That's one step that they can take to help address some of the concerns that would minimize the sorting required for these materials. But just to be perfectly clear, that alone won't address the rate issue today, because it's really an oversupply issue with the world's largest consumer, China, stopping to take those materials has created oversupply, which prices have plummeted. But you're absolutely right, to remove and put the right things in the cart makes a difference, and it's still valuable. We still encourage people to recycle.
And then you said that sorting facilities now are hiring more people to get at this, get some of these things out of the recycling pipeline. Are they then allowed now to, if they do that, hire the extra people, put in the extra time to sort the recyclables? Is that now going to China, or is it going somewhere else?
Again, an excellent question. There's very limited amounts of material going into China right now. That's my understanding. We, of course, don't broker or send any of the materials ourselves as the city, but talking directly with private facilities, reading the information shared on what gets exported, it's sent to other mills in the U.S. where possible, as well as some other countries are increasing their take on materials.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Fritz.
I might just add to that. I was given a tour of one of our local recycling sorting facilities by the haulers several years ago. It was astonishing to me, the things that people were putting in the recycling. Diapers was the one that was the most astonishing. Just because it's got plastic on it doesn't mean that you can put it in the recycling. And the other thing that I learned was that putting the plastic bags in the recycling gums up the machine and can cause a lot of damage. So, I think if, as you just pointed out, education is something I've recently discovered is Metro's got an amazing hotline and email service that if you have a question about should I recycle this, they will get back to you very, very quickly with a yes or no, and then what to do with it if you can't recycle it. So I just wanted to let people know that you can call or ask Metro or email Metro and they'll let you know.
We tend to call it wishful recycling because people are like, they don't want to have anything in the garbage, and we get that, but when you're putting the wrong stuff in, it ends up wrecking the whole system, so.
Well, and the takeout cups that are not recyclable, either in paper or in plastic, and sometimes they say they are. They say they're compostable, but they're not in the low temperature compost, right?
Right. So I think what you're going to see from us is we've gotten not quite as far as we can. We can do more food composting. We can do more on construction and demolition debris. But at some point, what we really need to do is go back upstream and say, don't buy that stuff in the first place.
Don't make that stuff in the first place.
Don't
Well, and if there's no demand, then, so I think that's where our education is going to begin to shift, along with a lot of nonprofits in the city. So, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there a public testimony on this item, Carla?
Yes. We have 4 people signed up.
Very good.
The first 3, please come on up, are Terry Parker, Beth Vargas Duncan, and Annette Pronk.
Good morning and welcome.
Morning.
Thanks for being here. Go ahead, Terry.
Good morning. My name's Terry Parker. I'm a 4th-generation Portlander. Property taxes, bond measures, utility rate hikes such as for electricity, water, and sewer, and yes, garbage rates all have an impact on the costs of housing. A couple of dollars here, a few more dollars there may be just the threshold that forces a senior citizen on a fixed income out of their longtime home. Given your declaration of a housing emergency, it is disingenuous to increase any tax or fee you have control over. It is unfair to landlords to require relocation expenses for renters if any part of a rent increase is due to escalating a city-controlled tax or fee. On your handout, which I don't think she's given you yet, is an image of a receipt with the postmark date of May 1980 for garbage service for the preceding months of March and April. The total billing amount is $6, $3 per month. This bill is for the same house I live in today. Jimmy Schlager Garbage Service was a small business with a modest-sized truck. Jimmy, the owner, lived in the neighborhood. Unlike current corporate operations where huge trucks pound the streets up one side and down the other, making as many as 8 passes on garbage day to pick up from the various containers, Jimmy would stop his truck in the middle of the street, carry a big can up the driveway, dump the garbage from the customer's can into his, and then return to dump the garbage in the truck. A helper would do the same on the other side of the street. This was a time when service was first and foremost, as opposed to the city deciding which corporate entity will have a monopoly. I have been clashing with Waste Management for over a year. During the winter of 2016-2017, Waste Management did not provide pickup service for 3 straight weeks due to poor weather conditions. I live on a flat street. Without studded tires or chains, I was out and about numerous times during that 3-week period. This big faceless corporate entity doesn't supply the service. If this big faceless corporate entity doesn't supply the service for any length of time, they should be automatically adjusting customer invoices. I have not and will not pay for a service not received. I believe a cap has been placed on the profits of electric utilities. The same should apply to corporate garbage service. Just say no to this rate increase. Also require companies to not bill for service not received. If the big companies don't like it, then maybe Portland should go back to a small business model for residential garbage collection. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor Wheeler, members of the council. I'm Beth Vargas Duncan with Oregon Refuse and Recycling Association. And in that capacity, I am here today representing the Portland Haulers Association, which has 11 different members, and several of them are small family-owned entities. Every hauler providing residential service in Portland is a member of the Portland Haulers Association. Portland members work cooperatively with the city's Bureau of Planning and Sustainability staff, and we've exchanged, as you've heard, quite a lot of information to get to where we are today for this rate review. I want to thank the city staff and other members that have helped us get here today in April, a bit early. As staff indicated, it will be very helpful to the haulers, especially the small family-owned individual haulers, that these kinds of challenges pose greater cash flow issues for them. So as you've already heard, what is happening and why are costs increasing? Specifically, it's the tightening of China's policies, limiting contamination to 0.5% for recycling materials. It's created a systematic impact in the market. Materials that had been once collected curbside, delivered to processors to sort, and then exported to the international markets, largely China, are either no longer accepted or the cost of accepting them has increased significantly. I am aware of at least one processor that has admitted that they are not really looking at China as a potential market. They are having to find new markets. So as a result, processors have had to add staff, slow sorting processes, store materials, and search for new markets for these recycled materials. Each of these activities add cost to the processing of recycling materials, and these costs have escalated dramatically and quickly. Over the past 6 months, the cost for haulers to drop off recycling materials for processing has increased about 4-fold to record levels. At the current rate, it's more cost-effective, frankly, to landfill these recycled materials than to have them processed. But the Portland haulers do not want to choose this option, if at all possible. So who's tackling this issue? We've had continuous collaboration over the last 6 months when we first started seeing this crisis among processors, haulers, local governments, the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, and other stakeholders, all working to identify methods to keep costs down, maximize the recycling of our materials, and avoid landfilling to both in the short and the long term. So what now? This expedited rate review process and rate adjustment will help the haulers successfully manage these costs and the unprecedented challenges presented, and continue to fulfill their recycling services to Portland residential customers. We've been proud to partner with the city.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Very good. Thank you. And we have your written testimony as well.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hello, Mayor Wheeler and commissioners. My name is Annette Pronk. I am a resident in the Cully neighborhood, and I am a lifelong recycler. I have 3 things that I'd like to share with you today. First, protecting the environment is incredibly important to me. I want Portlanders to leave our kids and our grandkids with a healthier and cleaner planet. Recycling is one thing that we can all do to help reduce our environmental footprint. Second, I know from my many conversations at community events in the capacity as a master recycler and with my neighbors that people in Portland are great recyclers. They understand that recycling keeps manufacturers from having to take more resources out of the environment through mining, drilling, and logging. We all know that we have to find better ways to reduce, reuse, and of course recycle. And lastly, I pay for garbage and recycling collection like everyone else in town. I understand that any cost increase will put a strain on a budget, but I also know that this is a cost many families like mine that we are willing to pay to allow us to keep recycling and doing our part for a better future. Thank you for this opportunity to comment.
Thank you. Thanks, all 3 of you. We appreciate it.
And the last person is Andre Baugh.
Good morning, sir.
Morning. Andre Baugh, Portland Plains Sustainability Commissioner. I'm fully supportive of what you have for you. What I'm here today to ask you to join us, the Planning Sustainability Commission, in requesting a policy scan of the best practices in eliminating, reducing, and recycling and education of plastic waste, and come back to the PSC and to you with options by October of this year. We are a leader in sustainability, and we need to be out leading and finding options that eliminate and do things it's our responsibility to control costs, and by coming back with options to our customers, we should be saying, here's how we can do that. And part of that, I would ask that we look at an option to explore is to prohibit the use of disposable plastic serviceware by requiring food service businesses to transition to disposable plastic serviceware from disposable plastic serviceware to durable and/or recyclable alternatives by 2020. This is commonly known as the straw initiative, getting rid of plastic straws. It's not new, it's not innovative. There's other cities that have already done it, but it's telling our customers, we're out there leading, we're looking at alternatives to control your costs in the future. The other thing I would ask is that you call for a long-term study, and Metro actually has money, and maybe we put a little money toward that too, to look at how, as we recycle, as Business Oregon looks at things, how do we actually eliminate the use of plastic? Because if we don't have to recycle it in the first place, we actually save money, and that's kind of the old technology of total quality. Don't remanufacture it, just don't produce it in the first place. And so I would ask you to join us in doing that. I think it's in the best interest of our citizens' health and safety and really economy from that standpoint. Thank you.
So I am very eager to do that with you. I actually have an individual in my office, and I'll put him in contact with you today because we are working on just that initiative, and I'd like to partner with you to do it.
Great,
I
thank
think
you.
It's past due, and you're right. Other municipalities have done it, and interestingly, the private sector is also leading in this regard.
Yes.
And so let's do it.
Great,
So you
thank you.
have my commitment to working with you, and we'll make sure that Kyle gets in touch with you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
We
Mayor.
appreciate your being here and your service on the commission.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Super Creativity Watchdog. China, 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 China. I'm impressed, China. And I agree with you 100% on having the requirements that you're trying to do right now and make sure that people follow those requirements. Here's my position to you, though, China. I want to have everything recycled in USA. I want to completely cut off any and all business with China. I want to have the mills built back in USA. I want to have the jobs back in USA pertaining to recycling. So again, to you, China, I want to cut off all business with you in China. And the reality is this, the Trump administration is negotiating with you right now on all trade agreements, and I'm sure on this recycling aspect also. So again, to China, if you want to have these rates brought back down for the USA, you need to drop those requirements a little bit. You need to go back to where you were. If you looked on the charts, there were no rate increases for about 4 years. Then it spiked up in the last 6 months to a year. So we know, again, it's you, China. Do you want to work with the USA, such as you're going to do on the other trade agreements? Do you want to be more reasonable right now? Or again, to you, China, China, we're going to bring the mills back to USA, the jobs back to USA. And do we need to continue this type of relationship with you, China? I don't know if we really need to. My biggest concern right now that I did hear is to start using the landfills again. I'd like to have that looked at very close, exactly what that meant. And I also heard a comment too, is that maybe our rates will drop back down again. As you in the public know, our rates will not drop back down again. When they set those rates, they're going to continue to stay there even if China becomes more reasonable. So again to you, China, our rates are going up. I want to continue to work with China, but do we have to? Do we need to? Do we want to just break off that relationship? Or do you want to be fair at this time, such as you're going to do on trade agreements with President Trump, which I'm going to give him credit on all these trade agreements that are currently being negotiated with China. He's going to take credit for all that. And will you, President Trump, begin to bring these rates back down to a reasonable level for the recyclables and not have to increase the rates? And as you know, China has the ability to put a lot of these people out of business if they want to. Bring the mills back to USA. USA recyclables, jobs here back in USA. Thank you again, China. Have a great day.
Thank you. Mr. Walsh.
Good morning. My name is Joe Walsh. I represent Individuals for Justice. One of the things that I would point out, Mayor, is that when you're physically here at the council meetings, it's different than watching on television because you see or hear something you want to respond to. And one of the things that I noticed in your agenda is you don't say you're going to raise the rates. You say you're going to revise them. Revise them is a kind of a nice word so nobody gets upset. You're going to raise the rates. And you're going to raise the rates on other things. And you're going to cut. I understand we're going to lose some parks. In my Brooklyn accent, we're going to lose some parks. So you're going to raise the rates on other things and this, but you don't tell the people that you're going to do that. You use the word revise, which can mean either way. You could go down. You could say rates are too high. Got to go down. You know, I just got my electric bill last month, and I realized that this is not city, but I'm telling you what's happening out there to the people that are living in apartments and housings. My electric bill last month for a one-bedroom apartment was $140. And Patty and I really try to cut off the lights. I have to have the oxygen machine running. It takes a lot of electrical to do that. However, a one-bedroom apartment is $140. Every dollar, and you heard that today, and you're going to do what you want. But let me warn you, let me give you, what is it called? Well, look at your future. How about that? Especially you there, Commissioner Fish, running for re-election. If you keep raising rates and you keep raising taxes, I would be amazed if 2 years from now, I don't look at 5 new faces. Because you're already alienated the radicals in the city, and now you're beginning, Mayor, with your cuts and your raising of the taxes and the raising of the rates to alienate everybody.
Somebody's got to balance the budget, Mr. Walsh. That's my job. It's not popular, but that's my job.
Then don't hire 100 cops for $10 million. How about that one?
Who's planning to hire 100 cops for $10 million?
Well, aren't you asking
not for
the
100
city
cops,
to
no.
come in and support
No, you have not seen my budget, Mr.
officers?
Walsh. I have not released my budget yet. You have not seen my. I'm telling you the facts.
Do not argue with me. I still got 3 seconds.
Take it.
I'm just warning you.
That sounds like a threat, Mr. Walsh. Next item, or excuse me, this is an emergency ordinance. Please call
Carl,
the
is there
roll.
anyone else who signed up to testify?
That was it.
That was it. Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Well, a rate increase is never something that people get excited about, but I do think that I want to commend the Portland haulers. I think they have tough jobs, and they do a great job at picking up our garbage and picking up our recyclables. So I want to commend them. And I also want to commend Bruce Walker and Susan Anderson for their lifelong dedication to recycling and making sure that Portland remains a leader. You know, Portland is not known as a city that's very religious in terms of supporting for organized religion. But I do believe there is one thing that Portlanders are religious about, and that is recycling. And I think most people that I have encountered want to see us, and I'm very proud that Portland is not reducing the number of materials to be accepted for recycling, which a lot of other cities are doing now in response to this. We are keeping our recycling bins open for all the things we can currently recycle, and there's a lot of things we can recycle. And I believe that is what Portlanders support. And I do hope that we do find more local markets, that we can use our own people to be sorting these recyclables, and also that our own businesses, manufacturers, will start figuring out ways to use recyclable materials. And of course, we need to be upstream and figure out how to reduce the amount of recyclables and solid waste in the first place. But I do, I'm going to support this, and I want to thank everybody who's worked on this issue. Aye.
Udaley?
Aye.
Fritz?
Well, thank you, Commissioner Stoltzman, for your pioneering work on this, starting with the Office of Sustainable Development. Thank you, Susan Anderson, for all your work, and Bruce Walker as well. I know this is going to be Susan's last presentation as the Director of the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability on this particular topic, and so thank you for all of your work on it. We've really come a long way in the, can't do the math this early in the morning, but since '86 when I moved here, it's really a sea change in what people do, both in their purchasing and in their disposal habits. I would be interesting to look back over the ordinances over the past 10 years and see how many said, I think would imagine they all said revise the rates, even though we did cut rates in several years and we kept them steady in several years as well. So this is a modest increase after a significant event that prevented us from continuing to reduce rates by more participation and more organization in what we do. But it really is on every single one of us, and I think that's the next level. Is we're all now, at least I hope we're all remembering to take our shopping bags into the grocery stores. I see fewer people like me going back to my car to get mine because we're doing it routinely. I think we all start thinking about, can I take my own reusable containers so that when I have leftovers, when I'm eating out, I can bring them home. When I'm going to get takeout, take the container as well. And so there's a lot of things that we can do, and it, I think, gets to be kind of interesting to see how low you can go. Mr. Walsh, I would just also, in addition to my tip on calling Metro, I recently contacted PGE to ask them why my electrical bill was about the same, even though my daughter has now left and it's just me, and they gave me some really good information about why that might be and what I could do to reduce my electrical bill. So there are experts out there who are ready to help on situations like this, and I just encourage us all to write that email, fill out that contact form, and get more educated. Thank you very much for all of your work. Aye.
Wheeler.
So you know I'm an enthusiastic supporter of this work. Commissioner, Director, Bruce, thank you for your leadership on this. I had the opportunity recently to go to the southern part of our country to talk to a conference of people who are really interested in what Portland was doing around sustainability. And they were interested in the culture of sustainability, and they were interested in the tactics of sustainability. And they were holding Portland up as the model of how to do it right. And they were particularly interested in this issue of diverting the solid waste stream and addressing public resistance to these kinds of programs. And basically the question wasn't, how many trucks do you need, or how many processing centers do you need, or what kind of contracts do you sign? The question was, how do we bring the public along and encourage their support? And I was really surprised, being that this conference took place in Little Rock, that they don't have a bottle bill. And one of the first questions that was asked was, how could we get a bottle bill down here? And I was so surprised by the question. I'm not sure I really gave them a particularly good answer, but it showed me that in many cases we're not years ahead, we're decades ahead in terms of the work that we've done. Nobody likes the rate increase. And I think all of us up here get that. And I hope that the line of questioning you heard me ask around what about people who are lower income, what does this mean about market conditions generally in the years ahead, what kind of commitments can we make to the young people sitting here in the audience about the future, that's part of leadership too. is trying to anticipate as best as we can with imperfect information what the future looks like. And I believe that this council and prior councils have always taken the position that we need to be as aggressive as we can in protecting the planet and protecting our environment. And I applaud this. I'm sorry we have to raise the rates for the first time in several years. The good news is we didn't raise it for several years. The good news is we're not anticipating raising them for several years. And I believe the commission, when they say that they looked at this really, really hard to make sure that they were being as cost effective as possible for the fee-paying public. So I'm starting with the assumption that people are coming to the table mindfully, and they're coming to the table respectfully, and they're coming to the table trying to do what is in the best interest of this community. So I certainly vote aye. The ordinance is adopted. Thank you for your fantastic work on this. Next item, please. Time certain 362, please.
Accept Portland Parks and Recreation Teen Program Report.
Commissioner Fritz.
Thank you, Mayor. I am very pleased to introduce this report. First, I move to accept a revised report which was distributed via the Tuesday memo. It just tidied up some of the language in the report.
Second.
Thank you. Shall we vote on that?
For 1 second. Carly, we have a motion and a second on the table. Please call the roll.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaly.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye.
Thank you. I am pleased to highlight this important program and give you a report that has a variety of benefits for the community at large, and it's the teen program. This program has a rich history dating back to 2005 that you will hear a little bit about. Council has historically resourced this program as an acknowledgement that gang violence is a growing concern, and offering youth a menu of options and opportunities for productive and enriching activities serves as an important preventative program for the city. It also, of course, serves to give all of our youth opportunities for getting together, building community, and engaging in healthy activities with adults who are there to support their needs specifically. This program would not be possible without the great partnerships that Portland Parks and Recreation has started to build with community organizations who know the needs of their communities best. By leveraging the city's parks facilities and partnerships with community organizations, this program has a broad reach to over 4,600 unique young individuals. I'm happy to introduce the Portland Parks and Recreation Services Manager, Eileen Argentina.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners.
Morning.
My name is Eileen Argentina. I'm Recreation Services Manager for Portland Parks and Recreation. With me today is Darrell Singleton, our Recreation Strategies and Initiatives Manager. We also have invited guests in the audience, some of whom will be making comments this morning as well. We very much appreciate this opportunity to report on our teen program, which we call Teen Force. I'm going to quickly touch on our parks vision and mission. As you can see, central to the parks vision is the way in which parks places and programs provide support for people to connect to their city, to themselves, and others. Parks mission is a commitment to the importance of play in the broadest sense of that word. According to Maria Montessori, play is the work of the child. This is no less true or important for teens than it is for younger children. Through play, in all its varieties, teens learn skills, explore boundaries, find their passion, build connections, and discover who they are meant to be. Parks' mission includes a progression from establishing an excellent system to developing and maintaining parks and buildings to bringing services and programs to life on that platform. All of this occurs with a premium on working with community partners as volunteers, as fellow providers, and creating value for the entire community. Here's a brief overview of the more recent history of the teen program, but I want to be clear that Parks has been focusing on serving teens for many, many decades. For instance, our youth basketball program has been going for 80 years now. Park board minutes from World War II show that Parks was focused on meeting the needs of teens when many dads were deployed and many moms were working. We'd be glad to come back at another time with a more complete history around youth programs. But in its most recent form, our teen program started in 2005 with a single teen coordinator who was shared between two sites. It's gone through a number of changes since then, with the most recent being a significant expansion in 2015. Parks and Recreation has found over the years that diversity of program offerings is absolutely essential to drawing teens in, to keeping them engaged, and to creating impact. The program design reflects that each youth is an individual, and the goal is to help them find what's going to bring out the best in them and connect them to others. You have a copy of this program guide, and we think it's a very helpful snapshot of the scope of our teen programs. It shows what Teen Force offers, where and when, and it connects people to the teen coordinator at each site. It also emphasizes the core value Teen Force has adopted from the Kids at Hope model, that all youth are capable of success, no exceptions. I'd now like to hand this over to Darrell, who'll walk you through the program model and introduce our invited guest speakers.
Good morning, Mayor Wheeler and Council.
Morning.
I am Darrell Singleton. As Eileen said, I'm the Recreation Strategies and Initiatives Manager, and in this capacity, I oversee the teen program, Sun Community Schools, and the citywide recreation services. As described in the report, Parks worked with the Center for Public Service at Portland State University to identify a program model as to what makes for a highly effective youth development program. This study identified 4 major building blocks leading to 2 primary outcomes. On the left side, you'll see the 4 building blocks: relationship building, welcoming spaces, diversity of activities, and organizational culture and capacity. With these conditions present, positive growth and development of individual youth occur. And ultimately, the entire community benefits from the cumulative effect of these impacts. Now, let me provide more insight to each component. What does it look like when Teen Force staff are connecting with teens in a positive way? Teens are engaged. Teens feel safe. Teens let their guards down. Most importantly, they share challenges, receive advice and support. Then they can take it and learn from staff and other participants and pay it forward. When it comes to welcoming spaces, the whole point is to provide a safe and supervised place for teens to come together and be involved in pro-social activities. We approach this in a couple of ways. We have our Montevilla Teen Center provides a space for teens to be teens. It's open 7 days a week, 3 to 10. Our other site-based programs at East Portland, Mount Scott, Matt Dishman, and Charles Jordan Community Center are places where teens are welcome to share space with seniors, preschoolers, families, and others where they practice being part of a larger community. Our community centers are also used by our partners on Saturday nights throughout the year when they would otherwise be closed or rented out for private events. This ensures that teens feel ownership and belonging, knowing that this is their park system. Providing programs where everyone can discover their individual gift is a special interest of mine. In my past experience working for organizations like Self-Enhancement and North Clackamas School District, I have focused and found when you find their individual passion, that passion can be a gateway to future confidence and self-esteem. As self-esteem grows through positive experiences, youth can see themselves as having a positive role in the community. Our teens are representations of our diverse community, and they don't fit into neat categories. Creative, adaptive, and varied programs is key to retaining their interest and fostering positive growth. Historically in youth programs, sports is a perennial favorite. Teen Force is no different. So Parks provides access to a wide range of sports, physical activities, including access to pools, fitness centers, gyms, skate parks, and a roller rink, and a boxing gym. For other teens, it's activities such as technology, visual arts, performing arts that bring them through the door. Whatever their passion is, this is used as a gateway for leadership, career exploration, and homework help, and et cetera. As I spoke about the PSU study, it highlighted that a successful teen program requires a commitment from all staff. The first interaction for teams within parks may not involve a Teen Force staff. The first impression sets the tone for the future relationship for teens and Parks and Recreation. Whether it's our front desk staff or our parks maintenance technician, every encounter is important to build our teens and break down barriers. Our Kids at Hope training is being instilled in all our teen staff. Parks have expanded that training to include staff that have frequent encounters with our youth. Future plans include all center staff receiving that Kids at Hope training. I'll take a quick break of my breath and then move forward and ask all of you to look at pages 6 and 7 within your report. And you'll see a more complete story of what's been happening. In addition to in your report, I've added 2 of the charts that are in the report on the screen above and for the audience to see. The information about the youth center visiting centers, it breaks down visitation by race, provides data about the diversity of our participants in the teen program, while our Teen Fourth Pass visit details use patterns by center. In your report, you'll also see that we had over 40,000 visits in 2017. In that, over 4,600 unique individuals participated in our teen program, which about an average is about 8 visits per individual. When those components that we talked about, those 4 I mentioned, come about, and then we have those primary outcomes, this is what we'll see in youth. Youth who are resilient, confident with strong senses of identity, making good choices today, and being prepared for challenges and risks confronting them in the future. Our ultimate goal is to use these resources to make a positive contribution to our community as a whole by supporting teens as they make their way to successful adulthood. We know the disparities exist in our community and around the country, with worse outcomes with communities of color. Many of the root causes lie far upstream from these outcomes and migrated when children and teens are given the support they need in a culturally responsive and sustained way. It stands to reason that investment in effective programs that foster positive youth development will contribute to keeping teens engaged and out of harm's way while they build their skills they need to succeed. I mentioned partnerships. The work to empower teens is truly a community effort. Parks works collaboratively with many organizations to provide programming to youth. Multiple nonprofit agencies, Portland Police, and the Office of Youth Violence and Prevention are all partners with the parks in this work. Of the $1.7 million budget for teens, $350,000 is provided to partners in a form of direct grants. You can see the names of these partners above. At this point, I'll take a slight break. I mentioned our partners, and I can speak in a lot of detail to it, but I think it also adds some legitimacy to that, having the partners here as well. So I'm going to invite Alice Perry from Latino Network and Joe McPherson from POYC.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor Wheeler, Commissioners. My name is Alice Perry, and I'm the Director of Community-Based Programs for Latino Network. And I'm here this morning to thank you for supporting the youth of our community through our partnership with Portland Parks and Recreation. For the past 3 years, we've partnered with Portland Parks and Recreation to provide safe spaces for gang-impacted and involved youth to engage in pro-social activities during the times when they are most vulnerable. And we do this in 2 ways. We provide teen nights at the East County and Peninsula Park community centers. Youth involved in gangs often have had to grow up too soon and equally are often ostracized from those very places that they need, places where they can go to have pro-social experiences and to have fun. This program has allowed our staff and staff from other partner organizations who equally have expertise working with these youth, the youth of our city, to provide safe and supervised opportunities for fun. The teen nights we conduct attract mostly boys, and they are primarily interested in basketball and other physical activities. For gang-impacted youth, this energy outlet is important, as by the time we take them home, they're often very, very tired and less likely to go out on the streets. However, we work to provide a variety of activities, and for example, this year we've also cooked with the youth. We had one of our staff members who's an artist make stickers with the youth. And we hosted a Dia de los Muertos event with mural painting, a DJ, Aztec dancers, and we built a traditional community altar. We always provide a meal. We transport those youth who cannot get there safely on their own and transport them home. Safety is always our top priority. And we provide bus tickets for those who live closer but cannot afford the ride. We have enjoyed partnering with the community centers, and staff there have been receptive, helpful, and welcoming to these vulnerable youth. And Team Force has really been, I think, a success in that the youth from the other Teen Nights activities or Teen Force activities have found their way to our Teen Nights as well, and we welcome them. Through this grant, we have also been able to expand our summer academia, which also provides 8 weeks of pro-social activities during the summer heating up periods for gangs. We've always been able to provide this opportunity in the past, but only to youth who were formally adjudicated. But this grant has allowed us to reach out to gang-involved youth who would otherwise not be able to participate in healthy pro-social activities during the summertime. We leverage other funds, so in addition to the grant from PPR and funding from the Juvenile Department, we work with Metro to maximize the number of youth that can be involved and stay safe during the summer. We built in leadership components for the older youth and try to remove all barriers to access. We very much value the partnership of Portland Parks and Recreation, not just because we can touch more youth, but because through this partnership, youth become again, reacquainted with accessing those pro-social spaces and a widening circle of adults that care about them and believe in them. Portland Parks has always been a place where I see our diverse community gathering by bringing our youth back into these welcoming spaces. We continue to make a change for them, and we hope to continue to be able to work in partnership with Portland Parks and Recreation. It's been a very respectful partnership, and again, we thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor Wheeler, commissioners. My name is Joe McFerrin, President and CEO of Portland OIC and the Rosemary Anderson High School. I'm going to talk very fast because I'm so passionate about Portland Parks because of the impact it's had on my life and our organization in partnership the last few years. So I'm going to go really fast because I have a lot to say, and I hope to get it out there real quick. First of all, I'd like to talk about the leadership of Portland Parks. Mike Abadi, Eileen Argentina, and their staff are committed to working with community-based organizations like ours and Latino Network, and Alice clearly articulated that. And I want to be clear, that's not always the case. But with Portland Parks, I feel really good about not only their work with me, but the work with our staff right down the line into our staff members. I will say, though, that they also put me to work. I think I had to go to 8 meetings at night for the Budget Advisory Council, and so they also do a good job of tapping into us as well. Teen Force and Teen Night has been huge for us because, again, as Alice has said, we're always looking for opportunities beyond the school day. So at Rosemary Anderson High School, we serve roughly 500 of Portland's what we call opportunity youth, and these are kids that struggle at the high school level, and we're always looking for meaningful ways to keep them engaged during non-school hours. So Teen Force and Teen Night has really provided us that opportunity, particularly using the facilities on the weekends, like Mount Scott, Matt Dishman, and East Portland Community Center. In addition to that work, we work with Parks to support 4 gang outreach workers, and that's been huge as well with respect to building trust between the community and Parks and those families that we serve. That extends our partnership beyond just what happens at Teen Nights, and that has been huge. Also, Parks provides, as you all know, so many employment opportunities for our youth. So again, this POIC, Latino Network, some of the other organizations are involved with Teen Nights and Teen Force. We're also are positioned to put our youth in opportunities to learn valuable work skills. And last, I would say, just last week, I'm proud to say that we awarded Portland Parks at our Work Connections breakfast. It's a breakfast at the convention center, 400 people or so. We do it annually, and it's all about youth employment and training. In Portland Parks, this year we recognize them as our community advocate. And that's not because of their work specifically with POIC and the Rosemary Anderson High School, but their work over many, many years with the community at large. So in closing, as a taxpayer, someone who pushed that button last night, this is something that I'm happy to support, and I'm hoping that at some point down the line that we may be able to increase a financial commitment to this particular program, because as you all know, our youth are our future, and if we take care of them, we'll have lasting benefits in our community for many years to come. So thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
So, I have a couple more voices I want to make sure we acknowledge. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Joe, for being here today. Both Alice and Joe mentioned the youth, and I like to turn to that key ingredient of a successful program, that we also ensure youth voice. So we invited 3 youth to be here. We believe in the follow the youth-adult partnership model, ensuring that our youth voice is in the design of many aspects of our program. I would like to invite 3 participants of our Teen Force program, Erica Darlington, Devassie Stigler, and Jeremiah Stigler. Oh.
Welcome to Portland City Council. All we need is your name, and you each have 2 minutes. If you have a written statement, you can take up to 3.
Good morning, Council. My name is Jeremiah Stigler. I am in 7th grade, and I go to Trinity Lutheran School. I am an active Teen Force member at Matt Dishman Community Center. This morning, I am excited to talk to you about my involvement in the Teen Force program and why it is important to me. I have been coming to Matt Dishman Community Center since I was 5 years old for at least about the past 8 years. I've been participating in basketball programs, and I've been participating with Knott Street Boxing Club. Teen Force is important to youth because it gives us something to do, and we get to meet people from around our community. Teen Force also gives teenagers a safe place to learn, develop, and have fun. In closing, Matt Dishman and Teen Force are my community, and I want to help my community grow. Thank you, Council, for your time and continued support.
Thank you. Thank you, young man.
Hello, Council. My name is Erica Darlington. I'm a student at Benson High School and an active Teen Force member at Matt Dishman Community Center. This morning, I'm excited to talk about my involvement in the Teen Force program and why it is important to me. I've been with Teen Force for about 3.5 years. My involvement in the Teen Force program has led to job opportunities with Portland Parks and Recreation. I am currently a lead teen instructor at Matt Dishman Community Center for the Teen Force Youth Advisory Council and You Go Girls. Teen Force is important to me because it gives kids and teens a safe place to be themselves. In my eyes, we have fun. Over the time Miss Yvette, Miss B, and King have been with us, our program has grown significantly. In closing, I would like to say that courage is the power of showing up. Thank you for giving me this time, and thank you for your continued support of our programs.
Thank you.
Morning.
Morning.
My name is Devassie Stigler. I'm a sophomore student at Grant High School and an active Teen Force member at Matt Dishman Community Center. This morning I'm here to talk to you about my involvement in the Teen Force program as well as its importance to me. I've been coming to Matt Dishman Community Center for about 5 years, and I've been an active member in the Teen Force program for the last 2 years. What I enjoy most about coming to Matt Dishman Community Center is the amount of exposure to all the different programs offered throughout the facility, as well as the diversity of people from all different backgrounds. As a result of me coming to Matt Dishman on a day-to-day basis, I've been able to build positive relationships with the staff here and was eventually noticed as a great addition to the team. I now work at Matt Dishman as a lead instructor for the Young Men Rise and Youth Advisory Council program. Lastly, I believe that the Teen Force program is extremely important to me and other youth because it gives us an option to become advocates for our community and keeps us out of trouble. The Teen Force program is dedicated to educating and exposing the youth to recreation, educational, and leadership programs. In closing, I would also like to mention, Matt Dishman is more than just a center to me. It's my community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With those final words, I would thank you. This is an honor to work with youth in our Portland area, and it's a privilege. So once again, thank you for the opportunity to serve in this role.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darrell. Are there any other community members, the teens or supporting adults who'd like to speak? We've got people so enthusiastic they showed up in the hope that they could have a few words. So you could allow that, Mayor?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, welcome. Thank you for being here.
So if we could do 3 minutes each, please. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi. My name is Savvy. I'm an 8th grader at Ron Russell Middle School, and I have been a member of the Teen Force for 2 years, and am part of the Mount Scott Teen Advisory Council for just about a year. The Teen Force program is a free and safe place for teens to have fun and relax. The community center's teen room is often a place to get away from stress at home or help with work from school. The staff are accepting to all genders, sexual orientation, races, cultures, religion, etc. I am currently the president of the Mount Scott Teen Advisory Council, being able to get out into the community and make a difference, even if it's a small one. I have done things from volunteering at the Oregon Humane Society to raising money for Puerto Rico, and much more. Personally, my favorite part of this program is the friendships I have made and that I hope will never end. Teen Force itself is an amazing opportunity that not many teams get to have. In the future, I hope that this program can expand so others can experience this amazing opportunity. I hope that Teen Force can be an opportunity for years to come.
Thank you.
Thanks for your leadership and for all your volunteering.
Thank you for letting me speak.
My name is Richard Law. I've been using the Teen Force program for a little over a year now, and it feels like a second home. When I first started going here, I was astonished at how we are treated like adults, people with minds of their own, with inspirations, hopes, and dreams, and the center gave us an opportunity to improve the community from within. I'm very fond of the Teen Council, where you as a teen can brainstorm ideas to benefit Portland and work alongside charities and trade for social recognition and for extra credit. I've picked up the trash in Mount Scott Park whenever I can. I bake cookies to sell for Puerto Rico, and I generally help around with whatever needs helping. The staff, I can tell, have been handpicked for working here, and they usually steer me in the right direction. We should do everything we can to advertise this amazing program with encouraging acceptance and diversity. And to be honest, the only reason I'm going here is because I'm interested in my future. I feel like this is the future. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Thomas Robertson. I'm with PYC, Street Blood Gang Outreach Program in Portland Park and Recreation. First and foremost, thank you for your time. Thank you for your support for our youth. And as a youth advocate and mentor through the PYC outreach program, I just want to say it's truly amazing to watch some of these youth develop. I've known some of these youth for 2 to 3 years now, and your programs are definitely impacting them tremendously by providing them with pro-social activities, positive association, and just creating a pipeline instead of being adjudicated youth to job opportunities, to leadership opportunities. I mean, a lot of these kids you see on the streets would not have these opportunities to be leaders in their community amongst their peers if it wasn't for Portland Parks and Recreation support or your support. So extremely from the bottom of my heart, I thank you and wish that you continue your support. And like Joe said, with more resources, more support, and definitely more opportunities for our youth and our future leaders.
Excellent. Thank you, and thank you for your influence. It's our program, but you're the one doing the work. So you're the reason it's successful. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor Wheeler.
Morning.
Council. My name is Rashad King. I've been working at Portland Parks for about 4 years now. I helped really build the Teen Advisory Council. I'm also part of the Young Men Rise. And what I've noticed is a huge impact in the youth and their development, whether it's taking them on different field trips to the zoo, or whether it's going to the coast. A lot of kids haven't really had a lot of opportunities to really get out of the city and see a lot of different things. And I feel this Teen Force program is really huge for them because this is a lot of kids' highlights right after school. A lot of kids might deal with things at home. In school, they might struggle, but at the community center, this is a place where they can just be free, open, and I see a lot of kids, for the most part, this makes their day. So I'm really proud of my youth coming from Matt Dishman, and at the same time, I'm really looking forward to seeing more youth come through the center, and we really need your guys' support, and I appreciate you guys' time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here. Was there anybody else who wanted to speak on this issue? Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. So we
I
have
move to accept the report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Before we
Fritz?
move to that, if you wouldn't mind just turning to page 5 of the report, because it was just mentioned about the funding and the budget, and I think since we're in budget season, it's helpful to look at the overall budget for this program, which is about 1.7 million, and the largest part of that is personnel services, and that's in Portland Parks and Recreation. That's 12 staff, 1 supervisor, seasonal staffing for 5 site-based teen programs, including the instructors, the attendants, and the assistants. And then if you look over on the right-hand side, the grant funding to our 7 partner organizations is $350,000. So there's a lot of good happening for the over 4,000 youth who are involved in this program, the 40,000 visits in this program over the course of a year. And I'm just wanted to highlight, I think that the city's getting a lot of it bang for its buck.
Agreed. Very good. Please call the roll, Carla.
Fish.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Fritz and Portland Parks and Rec for an outstanding presentation. Thanks to all the young people that joined us today. I guess we were fortunate to have a late start in our high schools and our middle schools. At least I think we do, because my son said he had a 2-hour. He said he had a 2-hour break this morning, and I'll double check on that when I get home. Echoing through these chambers are the words of the great Charles Jordan, who famously said that Parks and Rec is more than fun and games. And Mr. Jordan, who is really one of the great visionaries of our system, understood that it's more than fun and games, because what we are actually doing is providing opportunities for young people to grow with positive role models in a healthy setting. And that's, in some ways, probably the best investment we can make in public safety. And it's the healthiest investment. So we love this program. We thank the young people and the future leaders and their parents who took time to join us today. And again, thank you, Commissioner Fritz, for your leadership. Aye.
You, Daly.
Well, thank you for your report. I'm happy that we have a program like this. As the parent of a teen, I know that we have a real lack of spaces where teens can feel welcome and included and maybe not bored to death. And there's also a gap, I think, between childhood and adulthood in a lot of social and recreational activities. So I think it's great. I think we should have more. How about I?
Fritz.
So this job is not always easy. Last night we were at a budget forum where a lot of people are very upset about things that might not get funded or things that might get funded, and there was a lot of concern about those things. And then we look at how are we going to provide the services that people want with the amount of funding that we have. We look at how to support staff within the bureaus and how to make their coming to work worthwhile and meaningful and sustainable on their parts, both in terms of the amount of work they put in and the amount of money they get paid for it. And it's things like this, reports like this, that reminds me why I come to work every day and why I'm honoured to be in charge of Portland Parks and Recreation. That this is a programme that's done in partnership with the whole council and with the community, and that makes a huge difference. And sometimes for the programs that I've been most connected with, particularly in parks and in the Office of Neighbourhood Involvement, it's hard to put numbers on these things. It's hard to quantify the good that they're doing. So thank you to everybody who spent time today coming in to talk about what they're doing and the qualitative difference it's made in your lives and the lives of the students that you are charged with helping through those difficult teenage years. You know, each one of us on the council has been or will be. How old is your daughter, Mayor?
11.
Yes, so
Right
I
on the
expect
cusp.
will be very happy to hear that there are resources like this, because at times, as somebody who had 3 children who somehow survived those teenage years, as did I, you wonder how you're going to get them through. And this is an opportunity, the diversity of the folks who are involved in it, what we've heard about the acceptance, I would guess that things are not always easy for your daughter, Mayor. I bet you dollars to donuts that if she were to go to one of these programs, that people would be less concerned about who her father might be and more concerned about, does she feel welcome, does she feel part of the program. So this doesn't happen just by accident. This is a lot of work. And thank you to Park staff, Eileen Argentina, Jarell Singleton, Karen Burt, Mara Cogswell, Amy True, the team coordinators in the community centres, Jason Scott, Yvette Mata, Madeline Bach, Harold Ridge and Ryan Fitzpatrick, our partners at Portland Opportunity Industrialization Center, Latino Network, SEI, which I'm totally blanking on the name, on the acronym there, but we all know and love it. Self-Enhancement Inc., I knew I'd get there eventually. Boys and Girls Club, Reaching Empowering All People, or REAP, the Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization, Native American Youth and Family Center, NAYA, Portland Police Bureau, the Office of Youth Violence Prevention in the Mayor's Office. Thank you, Mayor, for your partnership on this. I know I don't need to convince you of the need for positive programs at the same time that we're doing outreach to keep youth out of trouble. And all the youth that came, actually, especially the ones that weren't necessarily on the agenda, but who volunteered your time to come and participate today, but also Erica, Devasia, and Jeremiah. Thanks to Pujabat on my staff, to Makabate, and to the entire team. Art Hendricks, thank you for your work with the equity issues within Portland Park and Recreation. We know throughout the city that we don't have all the answers, but we do know that we have some of the answers and that we're moving in the right direction in some of the places. And this program is definitely one of those. So thank you for your indulgence, Council, in hearing about something. Last night, moving back to what I was just talking about, there was a lot of people came with signs that said, care, not cops. And I would suggest that that's a false dichotomy, that we don't have to choose one or the other, that we can find funding for the things that are important, and that we need to provide funding for positive things at the same time that we're addressing some of the most crucial issues in our community, like homelessness, unaffordable rents, and community policing. So thank you all for being here. Aye.
Wheeler.
So I cannot top that, and Commissioner Fritz hit the nail on the head, so I'm not going to try to top that. I'm just going to say thank you for your outstanding leadership of this effort, and I want to thank everybody in this room for your outstanding leadership. The only value statement I'll make is this. I think the most important work we do is the work all of us, and I'm speaking to the adults in this room, the work we do to bring the next generation along. There's nothing more important that we do. And I was super proud of the young people who testified today. This is very intimidating, whether you realize it or not, but when you're actually sitting at that microphone, it's a big deal. And you look up and you see the big picture of yourself. These kids nailed it, right? They did a great job. They're learning all the skills they need to learn. The program obviously works. I vote aye. Report's accepted. Thank you, everybody, for your great work. Thanks, Commissioner. Next item, please. Is Commissioner Saltzman coming back quickly? Because I don't want to start without him. Why don't we do item number 366 next, and then we'll go back to 365, which is Dan's.
366, accept bid of James W. Fowler Company for the Northwest Industrial Street and Northwest 28th Avenue Sewer Rehabilitation Project for $2,114,949.
Commissioner Fish.
Mayor and colleagues, this is a procurement report on a competitively bid project for the Bureau of Environmental Services to install new public sewers, storm drains, and manholes in Northwest Portland. We're joined this morning by Larry Palat, Interim Chief Procurement Officer, and Scott Gibson is in the front row, Principal Engineer from the Bureau of Environmental Services, to give a brief presentation. Larry?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. You have before you the procurement report recommending a contract award to James W. Fowler Company for the Northwest Industrial Street, Northwest 28th Avenue Sewer Rehab Project, the amount of $2,114,949. The engineer's estimate on this project was $2 million, and the Bureau's confidence level was high. The project was advertised as the city's electronic procurement system. Bids were opened on February 27th. 4 were received in response to the solicitation, and James W. Fowler is the lowest responsive and responsible bidder at $2,114,949, which is 5% over the engineer's estimate. Not terrible in today's bidding climate, but still a little bit over. Bureau of Environmental Sciences, along with Procurement Services, identified an aspirational goal for the certified disadvantaged minority, women, and emerging small business enterprises subcontractor and supplier utilization of 20% of the hard construction contract costs for this project. James W. Fowler Company, acting as the prime contractor, identified the following areas of opportunities for subcontracting: concrete, asphalt, paving, rodent control, traffic control, and trucking hauling services. There is $104,901, or 4.96% of DMW ESB utilization identified towards the goal. DBE, only subcontractor supplier participation, represents 2% of that total amount, and the MW ESB subcontractor represents 2.96, apportioned as follows: DBE 42,400, MBEs 34,831, Ws 26,670, and emerging small businesses $1,000. James W. Fowler is located in Dallas, Oregon. They are not a state certified contractor. They are current with their City of Portland business tax, and they are in full compliance with all of the City of Portland contracting requirements. Funds are available under the owner cost center of E10382. If the council has any questions regarding the bidding process, I can answer those, or Eric Derschbeck or Terrence Chin and Scott Gibson are all here from BES, and I understand that the contractor is also represented if there's questions directly for them.
Very good. Colleagues? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to accept the report.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Saltzman, a second from Commissioner Fritz. Please call the roll.
Thank you for the presentation. Aye.
Saltzman?
Aye.
Udaley?
Aye.
Fritz?
Thank you. Aye.
Wheeler?
Aye. Report's accepted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, 365, please.
Accept bid of Cascade Bridge LLC for the Southeast 122nd Avenue Johnson Creek Bridge Replacement Project for $2,011,712.
Commissioner Saltzman.
Oh, okay. I'll turn it over to staff. I didn't realize this was truly a procurement issue, I think.
Okay. I'll go first, and then you'll get the presentation. So, good morning again. You have before you the procurement report recommending a contract award to Cascade Bridge LLC for the Southeast 122nd Avenue Johnson Creek Bridge project for $2,011,712. The engineer's estimate on this project was $2,057,748.07, and the Bureau's confidence level was high. On December 20th, Council approved the ordinance number 188739 for procurement to advertise and competitively solicit the project. The project was advertised on our electronic system. Bids were opened March 1st, 2018. 4 bids were received in response, and Cascade Bridge LLC is the lowest responsive and responsible bidder at $2,011,712, which is $46,000 or 2.2% under the engineer's estimate, which is good in our bidding climate. This project is a federally funded highway project, and as such, the city's standard aspirational goal of 20% disadvantaged minority, women, and emerging small business participation is not applicable. Federal projects recognize the DBE, or Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Certification, only. The Oregon Department of Transportation, or ODOT, is the manager of the federal funds, assigns a goal to the project for DBE firms. This project had a goal of 4%, which is roughly in line with most goals for city projects. PBOT has been working hard at trying to get their goals raised, and we've had some marginal success. Cascade Bridge has committed on this project to a 7.69% DBE participation, so they're over what the goal is. There's a total of $154,700 of committed DBE subcontractor and supplier participation, and an additional $134,200 to state certified firms, which is not calculated as part of the participation goal. Cascade Bridge is located in Vancouver, Washington. They are not an Oregon State certified DMW ESB contractor. They do have a current City of Portland business tax registration and are in full compliance with the city's contracting requirements. If the council has any questions regarding the bidding process, I can answer those, or Cameron Glasgow from PBOT is here with a short PowerPoint presentation.
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Cameron Glasgow. As Larry said, I'm the supervising bridge engineer for PBOT and the project manager for this bridge replacement project. Let's see. The bridge in question is what we refer to as BR 099, but we know that it's a lot more than that to the community. It's a critical link to Leach Botanical Garden. It basically bridges the parking lot to the main entrance, so any park user has to cross the bridge by foot. The bridge carries 122nd Avenue over Johnson Creek, and it was built in the early 1900s, but all the elements of the bridge above the water were replaced in the 1950s. And for decades, the bridge has looked about like what you see there, until that changed in December of 2015 when we had historic rainfall that cleared the creek banks, and a lot of the logs, debris, and rocks got caught up on the bridge and changed the alignment of the creek from the main channel to a side channel and scoured away several bridge footings. Once the waters receded, we were able to investigate the damage up close and determined at that time, which was early February 2016, that there was a significant enough threat to the bridge that it needed to be closed at that time to all vehicular traffic. We were able to leave bridge open, the one sidewalk for pedestrians and bicyclists, given that that movement is critical to the operation of the park, and also to pedestrians and bicyclists trying to access Foster Road for transit access. But that didn't, take away the impact to the motorists, and also changed bus routes for children that need to walk further to get to their buses every morning and afternoon, and also daily trips for commuters and trips to the doctor's offices and so on and so forth. So we knew this is an important bridge to the neighbors and worked right away to secure funding to replace the bridge. And in doing so, we tried to wrap our heads around the challenges and the critical paths of the bridge replacement, and we knew that permitting was going to be a very big issue for us. And here's just a list of 12 permits or regulations we had to overcome when we worked on the design. And I'd like to point out one from the National Park Service, which is Section 6F, which is very rare for us to run into, but it involves protection of parks. And when this came up on the project, ODOT environmental staff notified us that it will take between 2 years and 13 years to accomplish this permitting process, which we weren't happy to hear, but with our partners in Portland Parks and Recreation and National Park Service, we were able to get through this in several months. So after we did close the bridge and we started looking for funding through ODOT, they notified us rather quickly in March of 2016 that they had federal bridge program money available for us. Unfortunately, that didn't mean we could actually gain access to the money until September of 2016 because of the IGA process. But once that was complete, we were able to start on the design in September of 2016 and get the plans to a point in early January to start applying for those 12 permits and others that I had shown on the previous slide. And the permits started rolling in the summer of 2017, and all of them were final by November. We had the plans completed by December, advertised for construction this January, and here we are today, authorizing the contract, which will allow the contractor to start working in July to hit our 6-week in-water work window, which is a very narrow period of time we have to get the existing bridge out and start construction for the new bridge. We anticipate opening the bridge at the end of this year, hopefully by November. And I think we'll all the folks that have worked on the project can look back at that point, knowing that it had only been about 2 years since we started the design, that we could get the bridge back open. So the new bridge is going to be an improvement as to what was there before, with sidewalks on both sides, designed to ADA standards. There will be no weight restriction on the bridge, and it will be a clear span over the creek, removing the creosote-soaked timbers that are there today, and also improving fish passage. So long-term, we're excited to have this bridge replaced, and it should last for 100 years, but just equally as important, by reopening it soon, we'll be able to return life to normal back in the neighborhood.
You just noticed on that rendering there, it's right by Leach Botanical Gardens. So I want to again thank the council for providing some bridge funding for Leach. Yeah, thank you.
Could you?
But also to note that their board has figured out ways that they won't have to come back to ask for more money. So I really appreciate the impact that this project has had on the garden and the fact that they're continuing to do their fundraising for their major expansion. So thank you for your partnership.
Commissioner Fish?
Could you remind us, because
the north on 122nd to get to the parking lot.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Fish, a second from Commissioner Fritz. Please call the roll.
Fish?
After listening to the presentation, I think we should have an annual award for the most complicated permitting project and the most expedited process. And I think you'd win on both accounts. And it's actually pretty sobering to see that list of the alphabet soup of required permits. And when you said that one of them, you were told, could take between 2 and 14 years, and you got it done in a number of months. Let me just say that if we need help expediting a permit, I hope, Commissioner Salzman, we can call upon the experts in your bureau. Like I say, probably set a record. Nice job, and I know it's important to the neighborhood, and it's obviously very important to our friends at Leach Botanical Garden, which is, after all, the crown jewel of East Portland. Aye.
Saltzman?
Yeah, truly a great job. I mean, as Commissioner Fish just said, when you see that list of permits and realize this was all done in about 2 to 3 years, at least to the point of authorizing construction, that's remarkable. So good job to you and to the rest of your team at PBOT. So thank you. Aye.
Udaley?
Well, looking forward to seeing this completed. My staff just visited Leach Botanical Garden for the first time a few weeks ago. I think John Leach has used my favorite pickup line ever on his wife. It was, "I can tie a hitch to a donkey and take you places no cake-eating botanist has ever gone." I can only hope to meet someone one day with that kind of passion. I'll be here all day, folks. All right, aye.
Fritz.
Thank you for your work. This has been an extraordinarily, just coordinating between the city bureaus has been enormously complicated with the impacts to both the transportation system and to the garden. If you're interested in helping out Leach Botanical Garden while they're suffering from not having as much business at the garden, they have a plant sale at Floyd Light Middle School this coming Saturday. And so I imagine that might have some quite interesting plants that are not available everywhere. So please look into that. I plan to be there. Thank you again for all of your work. Aye.
Wheeler.
Commissioner Udaley, once again, you've set an impossibly high standard. This is fantastic work. Thank you all. I vote aye. Report's accepted. Next item, 367, please.
Approve application for the multiple unit limited tax exemption program under the inclusionary housing program for Northeast 148th Apartments, Building 1, located at 14775 Northeast Cooch Street.
Colleagues, this apartment building, Northeast 148th Apartments, Building 1, will have 3 of the 24 3 of the 24 units to be affordable to households earning up to 80% of the area income for 99 years as part of the inclusionary housing program. 2 of the 3 units will be 2-bedroom units achieved through the reconfiguration option. The owners, Reza and Rui Abedini, are building a total of 30 new units on the site in multiple buildings. The multiple unit limited tax exemption or multi-program is one of the financial incentives provided in the inclusionary housing program, choosing to make units affordable rather than paying the fee in lieu. Each multi-application, as you know, has to come before the City Council for approval. In addition to the 10-year tax exemption provided by the multi, this project will also receive an exemption of the affordable housing construction excise tax that otherwise would have been due on the affordable units. This project will join the other 19 private sector projects in the inclusionary housing permit approval pipeline, making a minimum of 92 units affordable and otherwise market rate developments. Good morning. And this is obviously, we have Dory Van Bockel here.
Yes, and also with me, Program Coordinator Cassie Graves.
Thank you,
so we
Cassie.
can answer questions, and also wanted to give you a quick update. Since filing with Council, we've actually gotten the number of total projects up to 29 in the pipeline, and a total of 24 private projects, and 141 IH units that are in that pipeline, with a number of other projects pending still that haven't identified the number of units they'll be providing yet. So things have heated up a little in the last month or two.
Good news. It's really good news. Commissioner Fritz?
Either for you, Mayor, or for staff, has Multnomah County passed their version of this yet?
Not yet.
This is for the inclusionary housing multi-version that's already approved through code as of last February and endorsed by the county. So what the county is still considering is utilizing the multi-program for projects not subject to inclusionary housing that came in for zoning prior.
Do you know the date the county's taking that up?
I believe it's not scheduled just yet.
Okay, thank you.
So Dory, in other words, these are 2 projects we're going to take up today where developers have approached inclusionary housing through the front door, not the back door. In other words, they filed after the deadline. It's otherwise required, and they're now it's now penciling out. Interesting. You know, I've been spending a fair amount of time in the community lately because I have a second job in addition to my day job, and the feedback I'm getting from some people is that the inclusionary housing just doesn't pencil out, and yet we're seeing projects come before us where there are projects moving forward. So what can you tell us? What's the lesson of item 367, the Northeast 148th and Cooch project that reminds us that inclusionary housing was carefully calibrated and can be successful?
Yeah, I mean, certainly every project is different depending on the land value, the structure of the own project's financing, the size of the units, the size of the project, private or more, you know, any public funding. This one is a small developer with a smaller creative project, and they've found a way based on the size of their units and the different incentives involved to make this work. Certainly, we don't get into the details of the financing for each particular project to know precisely how this is penciling for them compared to others, but it's certainly, you know, it's great to see some of these units coming in that will be, even with rents not on the market on Northeast 148th, greatly higher at this time than the affordable rents. Over the 99-year term, we're guaranteed that we'll have some affordability even in changes in the market in that area.
Good.
So just continuing on my previous line of questioning, they're required to do this inclusionary housing.
Yes.
So we can expect all those dozens of applications going to be coming in. We can expect seeing more and more of these.
Correct. Yeah.
And at this point, this is an entitlement. So what we're doing today is formalizing, yes, you qualify, rather than whether or not to do the program.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you. That's very helpful. And it's interesting, just so that people know, the total foregone tax revenue is only $9,806 for the entire 10 years.
Right. Through the inclusionary housing program outside of the Central City and Gateway Plan districts, the the tax exemption for the 10-year period, it only applies to the affordable units. So the amount of foregone revenue is quite low. Obviously, the benefit to the developer is a lot lower as well.
Yeah. And still, you know, that's good value for everybody, I think. So I appreciate that this is working as intended. Thank you for your work on it. Thank you.
And just if I could follow up on Commissioner Fritz's point, there are some folks in the home builders community who have said that because of this mandate, they simply will not move forward with projects because they don't pencil out. So it is a requirement, but we can't compel people to make investments in housing. And what has struck me as I've heard some of those voices, some of those loud voices, is that we are in the midst or wrapping up a Central City 2035 planning process where there seems to be a robust appetite for residential development downtown, which will be, of course, covered by inclusionary housing, and we're starting to see in the neighborhoods smaller scale applications coming before us. So clearly someone has figured out how to make this pencil out.
So if I might just continue with my previous thought, and that is that it's obviously very calibrated to the different areas, because this one is only $355 annually per unit. When we get to the next one, which is in a closer in area in Southeast, it's $567 per affordable unit.
Obviously, the taxes assessed are based on the value of the project. So.
Right. So it's self-calibrates in some ways, so thank you.
Okay, very good. Is there any public testimony on this item?
No one signed up.
Please call the roll.
Fish.
Nice work. Aye.
Thank you. Saltzman.
Yeah, good job. Very, very encouraging. Aye.
Udaly.
Aye.
Fritz.
So this is the first one with the inclusionary housing mandate, is that correct?
No, we've actually had several come through already.
I just have not been paying attention, obviously, but this is a good one. I appreciate it. Aye.
Wheeler.
Thanks. Great work. Cupid, I see you over there sitting in the corner. Thank you. And Shannon Callahan's worked very hard on this as well, both of you in particular. Thank you. I vote aye. The ordinance is adopted. Next item, 368, please.
Approve application for the multiple unit limited tax exemption program under the inclusionary housing program for 32 Division located at 2508 Southeast 32nd Avenue.
So all the talking points I gave earlier apply to this with a couple of changes. This apartment building, 32 Division, it will have 5 of the 32 units affordable to households earning up to 80% of area median income for 99 years as part of the inclusionary housing program. This project will join the other 23 private sector projects that are in the pipeline, which now includes 141 units.
Great.
Minimum. We have Dorian.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
At least, fantastic.
We've got some other projects that are still working on
Let's
submitting their
under-promise and
options.
over-deliver.
Yeah.
Very good. Colleagues, any particular questions about this one? Any public testimony on this item?
No one
Please
signed
call
up.
the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaly.
Aye.
Fritz.
Well, again, thanks to Commissioner Saltzman for his work getting this inclusionary housing allowed at the legislature. This one works out to be $567 that the taxpayers will be foregoing in order to have each affordable housing unit, which is obviously a very inexpensive way of providing some support for people needing housing at 80% of their average median income. Aye.
Wheeler.
Good news. Thank you. Aye. The ordinance is adopted. Next item, 369.
Authorize price agreements with CH2M Hill Engineers, Inc., Kennedy Jenks Consultants, Inc., Murray Smith, Inc., and WSP USA, Inc. for professional engineering services for the continuation of the large-scale sewer system rehabilitation program, pipe rehabilitation Phase 3, and large-diameter sewer rehabilitation for a total of $16 million.
Commissioner Fish.
Thank you, Carlo. That was quite a mouthful. The colleagues and Mayor, the Bureau of Environmental Services is responsible for repair and rehabilitation of the city's sewer collection system. This ordinance builds on the success of BES's urgent sewer repair work. Before us today are Scott Gibson, Principal Engineer, and Patty Nelson, Senior Engineer from the Bureau of Environmental Services to give us a brief presentation. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner, Mr. Mayor, and City Council. As the Commissioner mentioned, my name is Scott Gibson, and with me here is Patty Nelson. I'm going to give you a short presentation about our large-scale sewer rehab program and then turn over to Patty for the procurement details. You can hit that. Good. Would you go to the next slide, please? Thank you very much. These contracts help support the core of what our mission is. The City of Portland owns a lot of sewer pipes. We collect sewage and waste and transport it to our treatment plants. Those are aging infrastructure. Many of them are very, very old, and they're very valuable infrastructure. So this program is a part of our continuing effort to repair, rehabilitate, and maintain those assets. The failure of these systems is a permit violation, can cause property damage, and then obviously it's a risk to human health. So I'll turn it over to Patty to give you a little details about the procurement.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners.
Morning.
As Scott said, I'm Patty Nelson. I'm a Senior Engineer with the Bureau. The large diameter sewer system rehabilitation program has been in place since 2011. So we've been doing this for a while, and it really focuses on being proactive in addressing our aging sewer and making needed improvements. We take a risk-based approach, or asset-based asset management approach. And what we look at is we're trying to focus our efforts on the worst pipes and that make the most sense to get done. So we go in and we assess the sewer conditions. We assess what the risk of failure is. For instance, some run underneath freeways. That's a big risk if it fails. And we try to assign a cost to that. What would it cost if it failed? And then we calculate a cost-benefit ratio and prioritize the work based on that. So we're trying to hit the real big problems first. In terms of our work ahead, we've been working diligently on our small diameter work. That's 36-inch pipes or smaller. We still have some work left to do. We have 38,000 linear feet of pipe left, which is around $21 million worth of work. But our work ahead that is so challenging is our large diameter sewers. And also we have a lot of work left in the downtown core area. In total, it's $123 million worth of work left to do, and it is covered within our 5-year CIP capital budget of $159 million. For professional services, which is what this item is all about, we need assistance on a variety of ways. For design, specialty services, with our large diameter sewers, we actually have specialty needs in terms of inspection, structural assessment. I won't go through the long, exhaustive list, but it takes quite a team of staff and expertise to get the work done. For the selection process, is a qualification-based process. We did receive 7 proposals. There's 4 firms that have been selected: CH2M Hill, Kennedy Jenks Consultants, Murray Smith, WSP, and a variety of subconsultants. For our DMWESB participation, this has been something that we've really focused on in the last many years for the program, have been very successful to date, and we anticipate being more successful. So we've set a goal for these contracts at 30%, which is higher than, I think, purchasing set at 20%. So we're really focusing on that. And one thing that we've set for this contract is because the work is issued in task orders, so it's like small little mini contracts within the larger contract, we're asking the consultants to be very specific in identifying meaningful work for these firms within each task order, and then we'll be looking at each task order to make sure that they're delivering the work promised to these firms. Some past successes have been Emerial, I think is the correct pronunciation, where it started out as a very small firm and is now a very key member of a number of the teams that are on this project. And we've really talked with the consultant teams in terms of mentorship, looking to mentor different firms and bring them up through to provide more meaningful work. Any questions?
I'm just curious, WSP USA, is that a rebranding of some more traditional name?
So
yeah. What
there's
that?
a lot of consolidation going on in the industry. It's Parsons Brinkerhoff.
Oh, okay.
And CH2M Hill is going to Jacobs, so that's right.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of name changes.
Very good. Any public testimony on this item?
Yes, we have one person signed up, D. White.
Come on up. Thank you for the presentation. That was very well done. Good morning.
Hey. I just read this last night. I've been working on my 3-minute lead talk. Anyway, I just wanted to speak to transparency here. This is the third wave. The first one was done in 2011. I wasn't able to find that ordinance, so I don't know how much it was for. I'm going to say it was under 9, because the second one in 2014 was 9 million, and now this third one in 2018 is for 16 million. They had 3 companies in the second phase, 3 large multinational engineering companies, and for 9 million, so they got 3 million each. And now this time they're adding 4, and they're going to give them 4 million each for 3 years. And number one, I mean, there was no competitive bid. It sounds like they did do an RFP, it looks like, but the consultant selection committee is the one who approved this. And anyway, and also there's a 25% contingency built on it that the chief procurement officer can just do without any questions asked. Another thing is the second wave last in 2014, it did not have an impact statement with it. There was no impacts, and I think that's against code. It should have an impact statement. I went and checked again. It does not have an impact statement. The reason why impact statements are important, and there is one on this one, is that, you know, when you're working with task orders, you don't see a contract. There's no contract, so you don't know where the money's going. It's all through task orders. The only way the public can keep track of all this is doing a records request. And, you know, nobody has time for that. No. Anyway, I would like to request that the auditor audit this program to see, you know, if the money's been going right. Anyway, what I found out on the impact statement is that the past 7, it started in 2011, 9 million in 2014. In 2011, I'm going to say it was probably about 6 million. I don't know. It's going to be less than the 9. So let's say 15 million for the first 7 years of this agreement thing. They only did 55 miles. I mean, that these earlier price agreements allowed the Bureau to expedite rehabilitation of 55 miles. That in 2,500 miles of pipes, I mean, what kind of cost benefit is that? That's why I'm just speaking to the transparency here.
Thank you for your testimony.
It's a first reading.
So this is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading. Next item, please, 370.
Amend the transportation fee schedule to incorporate the multimodal incentive fees for the pre-approved transportation demand management plan per code chapter 17.107.
Commissioner Saltzman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask that this be returned to my office.
370 is being returned to Commissioner Saltzman's office. Next item, please, 371.
Assess benefited properties for street, sidewalk, sanitary, sewer, stormwater, ornamental street lighting, and water main improvements in the Northeast 112th Avenue and Mark Street Local Improvement District.
Commissioner Saltzman.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the final assessment for properties paying into the Northeast 112th and Mark Street Local Improvement District. The city has been asked to do this project for decades, and under Andrew Abbey's capable leadership, we are finally at the point of completing it.
Thank you, Commissioner Saltzman. Andrew Abbey, Local Improvement District Administrator. I have a presentation for you this morning, Carla. If we could switch over to the presentation. We're already there. Great. So this is a map of where the Local Improvement District is located. So it's north of Sandy Boulevard, east of 105th Avenue, very close to the Portland Airport. And this is just a recap of the LID on a high level. So this is at least the second run at doing an LID. I know there was one several decades ago. I can't tell you exactly when it was. It was either the 1980s or 1990s. Suffice to say that people had called PBOT for many, many years looking for help with the streets in this area. And the conversation started off a little bit contentious, but we did our usual approach of working with the property owners to customize this project to meet their needs. And we formed the LID with no remonstrances received at LID formation. We did receive 2 objections representing 5% of the estimated assessment, and I'll touch briefly on those at the end of the presentation. One thing I just wanted to stress for council is that when we were putting the LID together, we had a bit of a chicken and egg thing in that the property values were quite low in this area. And we were balancing the property owner's desire to do the LID relative to the capability of the properties absorbing those assessments. I'm pleased to announce that with no development yet happening in this area, and we know that there will be some coming, since we formed this LID, the property values, according to Multnomah County, have doubled, which basically means that the relative burden of the LID has been cut in half for the property owners relative to the property values back in 2012. We started off this LID with a $2.8 million LID and about a $400,000 city contribution. We originally were just going to do street, sidewalk, and stormwater improvements with PBOT and BES financially participating. As we started working our way through the LID, we found that on Northeast 112th Avenue, we had what today would be a 78-year-old cast iron water main in the wrong vertical location that was undersized and would not work for future development. So what we thought would make no sense would be to put a brand new multi-million-dollar road over the top of, again, what would be a 78-year-old water main. And then a few years after we closed out the LID property owners could look out their window and see the road that they're making 20-year payments on dug up to put in a new water main. We just didn't think that made a lot of sense. So we were able to put together a partnership with the Water Bureau, and this saved the water ratepayers a lot of money because the LID was already handling the design costs, we were already doing the survey, we were already doing the environmental permitting. You heard Cameron Glasgow, my colleague, talking about the alphabet soup of regulatory agencies on the 122nd Bridge project. We had to deal with a small subset of those regulatory agencies because we were dealing with in-water work in an unnamed tributary to the Columbia Slough. So we got all that baked in, and we also had some property owners who stepped forward and asked us to expand the LID to include them. So I want to emphasize that the increase in the LID is not because of a cost overrun, it's because we had more neighbors wanting to jump on the bandwagon and to be part of the LID. The Water Bureau stepped forward and helped pay for the water main. BES also had some stormwater benefits. So we added the water main, and we also had a property owner of his own accord voluntarily elect to fund ornamental street lighting on the project. So we already had the road torn up. It was a great time to put in conduit for street lighting. That was a cost that was assessed to one property owner and not to the entire LID. So now what you wind up with is 3 infrastructure bureaus, once again, all partnering together and doing things the way they should be done. And then all of the 2018 LID amounts that are in this ordinance are within the 2011 estimate that we prepared, despite robust construction competition. And as I was waiting for this item to come up, I went on the Colorado Department of Transportation website. And from 2012 to 2017, their construction cost index went up 32.77%. So keep in mind that, you know, it's great we took the extra time to do all this, but we've been in a pretty inflationary construction environment. So we're very pleased that we're able to bring this LID in slightly below budget for the property owners. And then final note on this slide, this was a pretty quiet area when we started the LID. At the very north end of 112th Avenue, we had a shuttered business that had closed during the recession. There was nobody working there. There's no activity there. Once we had the LID formed and the infrastructure was on the boards to be built, we had a new property owner move in. He purchased that property, remodeled the building, and now he has 139 employees working there, all of whom make living wage jobs, and I think you'll be testifying here in a moment. So here's a picture of Northeast Mark Street, which is a neighborhood collector. This is what it looked like before we started the LID. We used to affectionately refer to this as Lake Marks. This is what it looked like on paving day. You can see the ornamental street lights over on the left. Commissioner Fritz, I just reached out to your bureau again. We will get the street trees planted, I promise. That's on our list.
Thank you for anticipating my question.
Thank you. I just thought I'd give you a little preemptive strike there, yeah. But we not only had stormwater issues in the public right-of-way, we also had stormwater issues on private property. So if you look at that top left picture there, you can see that we didn't have any curbs, we had no stormwater management. The water would just run off the road and into people's property and form little lakes on their property. The picture there on the top right is the unnamed tributary, which is just east of 112th Avenue. You can see that somebody thoughtlessly dumped a tire down there. That water there that you see in the picture used to never make its way to the west side of 112th Avenue because there was an invert pipe elevation, which means that any fish in the area would have no way to get across 112th Avenue. So we fixed that as part of the project. The other thing that we fixed as part of the project, and there was no expense to the property owners from this, is you see those many gallons of hazardous waste in the bottom right-hand picture. The one-call shop that the city administers went out several times before we completed construction and hauled all their stuff away so that it wasn't there. And as a final note on this slide, I just wanted to recognize how helpful the input of Bonnie McKnight was. She was the former chair of the Russell Neighborhood Association. She had a particular interest in this area. And I just want to briefly read you the testimony she provided before we started this project. She said, in the late 1970s, before we were administratively annexed into the city of Portland, we had hoped to make this unique regional asset a recreational area in which the environment would provide an economic benefit to our proposed city of Columbia Ridge. We envisioned it as similar to Stanley Park in Vancouver, British Columbia. When we were annexed, this formally restricted 100-year floodplain was zoned primarily for industrial development. In the past, that has meant an often negative trade-off between industry and the environment. We are wiser now and becoming even more informed that industrial development can thrive in environmental areas and that riverbanks don't have to become separated or degraded areas in a city. Nor do those tracts of industrial land need to develop in a way that will require corrective investment in the future to remedy avoidable problems. So I just wanted to show you, you saw this picture here in the top right with the tire thrown in there and the water not getting through. Take a look at the picture on the right. This is a picture I took the day they were paving 112th Avenue. You can see the ripples in the water. The water is now making its way from the east to the west side of 112th Avenue. We don't have that stagnant water anymore. And that's the end of my presentation.
Looks good.
So happy to answer any questions you might have. I have my very capable colleagues here from PBOT that will talk about the street vacation. I just want to say, with regard to the street vacation, that the LID has built everything that we need to build in this particular area. Council approved the first of 3 street vacations in March, and I worked very closely with right-of-way staff because we didn't want to set up a situation where we had these rights-of-way targeted for future street improvements. That was contrary to what Bonnie McKnight, among other people, asked us to do. So we just wanted to get these rights-of-way off the books because there are no future LIDs in the very northern part of this particular area, in the area of Deering Drive, and you'll hear more about that from my colleagues in a moment.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Does that complete your presentation? That completes your presentation?
That's it.
Great, thank you. Is there any public testimony on this item?
Yes, I have 3 people signed up.
Very good.
Josh Brown, Mary Sipe, and Dean Alterman.
Good morning.
Good morning. Since I got here first, I'll just kick it off.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Mary Sipe. I just want to make a couple comments. I find it so interesting about this time of day on most Wednesdays. Some of the people that are most vocal have left and aren't here to see some really incredible work and also to learn a lot. I just think every time I see Andrew bring up a presentation, I'm so impressed by the detail he puts behind it. And, you know, people talking about transparency and squandering funds and, you know, and all of this. And, you know, I just wish people could see the work that is going on behind the scenes and the diligence, the due diligence, and the anticipation of, you know, of future impacts on some of these projects and how to work that in. I'm just so impressed, and I'm so thankful that we have people in our city doing this kind of work with so much skill. And I just want to say thank you, and I wish people that are so critical could be here to see some of this and really understand what's really going on under the iceberg.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that very much. Good afternoon.
Hello, I'll go. Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of you today. My name is Josh Brown. I'm the district manager for Aero Sanitary Waste Connections here in Portland. We are one of your residential franchised haulers, and also have a contract with you hauling grit and screening with the wastewater treatment plant. First off, thank you to your attention to the previous agenda item related to the rate adjustment, and we appreciate your support. I wanted to just provide a quick testimony today on this topic for one main reason, and that's safety. The section of roadway between 109th and 105th on Marks is absolutely dangerous. We operate a fleet of over 70 trucks that now occupy our yard on 109th. This is a main entry and exit for our facility, and our occupancy has significantly increased the traffic flow on this block. We just moved in there at the beginning of the year. Additionally, River City Environmental, one of our neighbors who is here as well, they operate a sizable commercial fleet. There are also semi-trucks entering 109th that go to the Bark Yard owned by Walsh Trucking, and this is a daily truck route as well. This section of Marks is also utilized by Waste Management and Republic Services, other garbage haulers. Republic Services yard is just down the street, and Waste Management hauls a lot of their recycled material to Far West Recycle, so it's a common route there, among other commercial haulers. So I've personally witnessed quite a few near misses on this section of Marks with commercial as well as public vehicles. The potholes have damaged some of our trucks. The roadway is absolutely too narrow for two vehicles to safely pass, especially commercial vehicles. So I just kind of wanted to come here and express my concerns with that, not only for the safety of my 100 employees, but also the community and the other companies that utilize this section of road. I wanted to give my support for continuing to improve this area and encourage the City Council to evaluate further improvements to that section. So that's all I've got. I appreciate the time in front of you today, and thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, my name is Dean Alterman. I'm appearing here as an attorney on behalf of River City Environmental. Its principal, Steve McGinnis, manager Mark Newsom. An affiliate of theirs owns adjoining property to both property within this LID and the street vacation. We appreciate Mr. Abbey's and the Bureau's hard work in getting us to this point. We unreservedly support it, and we ask that you approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Was that it, Carla, or was there one other?
That's all who signed.
Very good.
Oh, wait, just a minute, I'm sorry.
Good morning. Good afternoon, sorry.
Oh, Christine, did you want to testify at the presentation?
Yes.
She'll testify at the
I'm sorry.
Okay, very good. So with that, then, this is a first reading of a Commissioner Fritz.
I just wanted to thank you for quoting from Bonnie McKnight and to recognize her leadership in this area over decades. And I appreciate that you found and read her email.
Very good. This is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. It moves to second reading. Next item, can we please read 372 and 373 together?
372, vacate portions of Northeast Deering Drive and Northeast 112th Avenue and Northeast 111th Avenue, subject to certain conditions and reservations. And 373, vacate a portion of Northeast 112th Avenue south of Northeast Deering Drive, subject to certain conditions and reservations.
Commissioner Saltzman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll turn it over to staff.
Good afternoon. I'm Carl Aruda, right-of-way agent with the Bureau of Transportation. These two ordinances are street vacations for portions of Northeast Deering Drive and 112th Avenue, and also a little piece of 111th Avenue. And we have an additional presentation that Carla will help me with. Oh, there we are. Thanks, Carl. And as Andrew mentioned, the street vacation is connected with the LID that you just heard about. The vacation proposal was initiated by the Bureau of Transportation as part of the LID project. And these two ordinances are part of the same overall project as the street vacation for Northeast Mark Street, which Council approved back in March. The right-of-way on Deering and 112th and 111th is undeveloped, and PBOT has no intentions of developing it into any city streets, as Andrew mentioned. On this map, I'll just point out that down here is Mark Street, and this is the area that was approved for the street vacation in March. And Deering Drive parallels the south branch of the Columbia Slough along here. And this is the small piece of 112th here, and 111th little stub that was platted on the Park Rose plat is over here. And I have a few photos. These are just some photos of, this is the undeveloped Deering Drive right-of-way. And as you can see, it's not a city street by any stretch, and so that is the current state of Deering Drive. And Andrew showed you some pictures of 112th Avenue. So this is the end, the north end of 112th Avenue after the construction was completed, and the street vacation area is basically the area behind this fence and gate going north into the trees there towards the slough. And then 111th Avenue is not in existence, if it ever did exist, crossing the slough there, but it was platted on the Park Rose plat about 100 years ago, and so we felt it was best to vacate that mysterious piece as part of this street vacation also. And Deering Drive, on this map, Deering Drive is the this area along here, on the south of this slough banks. As part of the street vacation, we notified city bureaus, other agencies and utilities and so forth, and we have several requests for easements to protect various assets. The Bureau of Environmental Services on 109th Avenue asked for an easement for a stormwater pipe that goes north on 109th into Deering Drive and then daylights into the slough. And so there's the piece of the pipe that is in Deering Drive that will then be covered by an easement after the street vacation is completed. Similarly, on 112th Avenue, Andrew mentioned the Water Bureau's work on the water main. And so this is a sketch of the water main that goes up 112th and into Deering Drive and actually goes under the slough out to the other side, on the north side of the slough. And so Water Bureau asked for an easement going for the full length of 112th Avenue into Deering Drive's vacation area to protect that pipe and to give the Water Bureau, access for any future repairs or maintenance that might be needed on that pipe. There is also a PBOT streetlight on one of the utility poles in the vacation area in the trees. And so PBOT Streetlight Division asked for an easement to protect that streetlight and allow maintenance of that light as necessary. The Bureau of Environmental Services and the Multnomah County Drainage District also asked for access easements to get from 112th Avenue up to the slough for inspection and maintenance purposes in the slough. And over the same pathway, we had multiple requests from BES and the Neighborhood Association and the Columbia Slough Watershed Council for protecting public access along the trail here to the slough. And so PBOT will be taking a trail easement along a similar area to maintain public access. And this is another version of that same area showing the access easement and trail easement area here with the aerial photo. And these green lines and yellow lines show the existing pathway from 112th down here up through the vacation area and down to the water. And so that area would be shared by BES and the MCDD, and then there would be a pathway here for public access as well. BES also asked for a conservation easement along Deering Drive just to provide some additional protection. That area along the south bank of the slough is currently zoned with an environmental protection zone, but BES felt that a conservation easement would provide some additional protection that they felt was important for that stream bank area. And this is just a photo from the water, and I believe this area here is where 112th Avenue and Deering Drive end over here, and you can see the lines coming down here, just to kind of give you a viewpoint from the water and showing that there's periodic public access there in the water, and why folks asked us to maintain public access at that point. And I'll be happy to take any questions.
Colleagues? Commissioner Fritz.
So I'm just looking at, this is a city-initiated street vacation, right?
Yes.
So who is the petitioner?
Well, the petitioner would be PBOT and through Andrew Abbey's LID project that initiated it with our division.
It says the costs of the street vacation and staff time are borne by the petitioner. Is that borne by the Bureau of Transportation or by the LID?
I believe it's funded through the LID project, and I think the costs for the street vacation are a small part of the costs that Andrew was discussing earlier.
Yeah, if I could just get clarification
Andrew
on that.
would know more about the funding.
Andrew Abbey, Local Improvement District Administrator. So we had the three the chief benefiting property owners who stepped forward and said they wanted to work with us on this. So embedded in the LID assessment is the cost of the street vacation. Street vacation is not being apportioned to everybody in the LID. And I should also note there's some beneficiaries of the street vacation who are not paying for the street vacation. So we have, again, three of them who stepped forward and we're willing to bear the cost of that.
Great, thank you. And this is when it seems like a series of street vacations that the city has initiated or that have been initiated along with an LID, and we heard about another one this morning under Citizen Communications. So I'd like to get a briefing on city-initiated LIDs and also making it clear who's actually paying the costs for the street vacation part of it in the financial impact statement would be really helpful to me, so I don't have to ask them. But I'm glad to hear that the property owners who will benefit by having more property because of this are the ones who are going to pay for it. Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner, I just wanted to add, I mean, part of the reason why we've been increasingly doing this on LIDs is not to leave these remnant rights of way that are sort of no man's lands where PBOT doesn't really want it and there's not really clarity for the property owners.
It makes a lot of sense. I think just spelling it out for me and others, because obviously vacating land means it's going back into private ownership, and can be a big deal.
Thank you. My colleague Dee will
Hi,
speak
good
more on
morning.
that.
Dee Walker, right-of-way acquisition. I actually oversee the street vacation program, and I would be happy to discuss with you and your office. We do have a criteria that needs to be met for city-initiated street vacations, and I'd be happy to speak with you about that.
Yeah, I'd be happy. I'd like to know, what's in the pipeline and how would somebody. I noticed you were helping the petitioner or the constituent this morning.
When I found out that he was speaking, I had actually worked with him several years ago, and then I saw him on the agenda, and so I called him up, and
Yeah, and you were right here to
yeah.
help him out, so I appreciate that. So just as, you know, to make things smoother,
Sure.
I'd like to know. Thank you.
I'll reach out to you and see when you're available.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Is there, does that complete your presentation on these two
Yes.
items? Is there public testimony on this item?
Yes, we have
Believe
4
Brad-
people signed
Very
up.
good.
Susan Barthel, Linda Robinson, and Corky Collier.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Susan Barthel, and I want to just address a couple of things about the access point for public recreation that's embedded in this idea. Like Bonnie, I consider this one of the most unique areas of the Columbia Slough. It's commonly called now the Little Four Corners area, and it's a place where one can walk to the water easily. One can see the welling up of cold springs easily, and there is unique waterborne life in this area. So it's very precious to me, and in fact, to a lot of other people. I was the primary writer of the recreation guides to the Columbia Slough and the Paddler's Guide to the Columbia Slough, each of which note this area for its special environmental qualities. So Little Four Corners, this little part of the old Stanley Park that was envisioned for Portland, I guess, is also a place where local schools in East Portland have access to come down and do environmental studies. There are not very many areas like it on a waterway. And I would ask that as we move forward with this, that the idea of year-round access, it's not just for paddlers and people who want it during the good weather months. In fact, spring, fall, and winter are the times when most people will use this. And so we need to have a very clear access and management strategy. Thank you. I hope that many of us can be involved in the conversation about how this management will go forward. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Linda Robinson. I'm testifying today on behalf of the Columbia Slough Watershed Council. First, I wanted to say this particular area of the slough, as Susan said, is a really special area. When I met Alice Blatt about 30 years ago, and she was working on Columbia Slough issues, this is the place that she first took me to show me kind of the value and the variety of the Columbia Slough. It's really cool to see. It's a shallow, clear water. You can clearly see, standing on the banks, this water, the springs bubbling up. I mean, it's very unique. So we were really important to keep that access. So I just wanted to read a portion of the letter that the Columbia Slough Watershed Council submitted. The connection from 112th Avenue to the Columbia Slough is an important public access point. This area is called Little Four Corners, noted for its clear springs bubbling up from the bottom, the riparian forest along the banks, and its gentle slope for canoe access. The Columbia Slough is a significant land and water trails for residents, but there aren't very many places where the public can actually access the waterway. So it was important to keep this one open. The connection at Northeast 112th is one of the few points and should not be relinquished. This access point has already been published and widely distributed in publications by the Columbia Slough Watershed Council. So we recommend that the Portland Bureau of Transportation, and we commend them for stepping forward and agreeing to take the recreational easement access. That was a big question for some time, which bureau could and would accept that access. So we appreciate the work that Andrew Abbey and others have done on this, and that this will be kept open for recreation. And I agree with Susan in terms of the timing. There's a lot of use of it in the winter time. It's easy to get to. You don't have to walk through a lot of brush, and it's important for East Portland.
Very good. Thank you for your testimony.
Hi, my name is Corky Collier. I'm Executive Director of the Columbia Corridor Association. The Columbia Corridor is home to most of Portland's industrial land supply. We supply, and the industrial sector supplies more middle-wage jobs to communities of color than any other sector in the city. Think about that. East Portlanders look to the Columbia Corridor for family wage jobs. In addition to that, the Columbia Corridor is home to the Columbia Slough with all of its beauty and a few problems that go along with that. As is Susan, I'm a former board member of the Columbia Slough Watershed Council. I'm current supervisor of the Multnomah County Drainage District, and I'm an executive director of the Columbia Corridor Association with some of the affected landowners as members. With that many hats, I should be hesitant to speak for any one of them, but I'm going to anyway. The Drainage District absolutely needs the maintenance access at this area in order to get to the slough to maintain water operations. In addition to that, as you've heard, the Watershed Council is insistent that we maintain access for recreational boaters. It is a beautiful spot. If any of you would like to go boating on it, give me a call. I'd be glad to take you out there. In the end, both easements seem to be lined up. The recreational easement in particular was difficult, but I think everything's in place. The area has been cleaned up. The improvements have been made. It's beautiful, but it was difficult. It would have been easy for staff to give up or to come up with lesser solutions along the way, but they worked hard and they worked well, and that makes the decision easy for you. I hope you'll see fit to finalize this LID, finalize the street vacation, and allow city staff to move on to the next complicated land use issue. Thanks.
Thanks, Corky. Thank you all.
And next two are Dean Alterman and Christine Maynard.
Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry,
No,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Christine Maynard, and I work as a consulting wildlife biologist for the City of Portland's Bureau of Transportation. Recently, I worked on the environmental documentation and permitting for the Northeast 112th and Marks LID projects. As I worked on this project, I made several visits to the project site and project area, and I witnessed conditions that made me feel unsafe in the process of my work. I believe that implementing a stewardship plan for this area would be a win for both the people that live and work there, as well as for the environment. The Columbia Slough and the surrounding tributaries provides habitat for many fish and wildlife species that are native to Oregon. The remaining natural areas within the city are especially important because they provide movement corridors for wildlife. The Columbia Slough and its tributaries, including Whitaker Slough, offer refugia for salmon and other listed aquatic species. In addition, this area is home for western painted turtles, which is an ODF and W conservation strategy species. And birds, including hawks, great blue herons, and many songbirds, also use this area to feed and rest while moving from habitat to habitat. Allowing the street vacation returns the ownership of the area to the landowners and empowers a public-private partnership to manage and maintain the banks of the Columbia Slough with native vegetation. Effective management and maintenance will be beneficial for wildlife species that utilize this area and will help to provide habitat where little other exists. I encourage you to support the street vacation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor and councilors, Dean Alderman again appearing here for River City Environmental and its affiliate, the adjoining landowner. We support the street vacation. I commend Carl Aruta's hard work as well as Andrew Abbey's in getting us to this point. It aligns the city's interest in the property with what the city actually needs and allows the landowners to make some use of what is there. And you've now heard 2 items in a row where the lawyer gave the shortest speech. Thank you.
We will remember that. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon.
Your bill will reflect the fact that it was a 1-hour piece of oratory, and there wasn't a dry eye. Wasn't a dry eye. Wasn't a dry eye in council.
No, he only bills on the half hour.
There you go.
So we're okay. So, Steve McGinnis with River City Environmental. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for hearing us today.
Thanks for being here.
You bet. So we get both sides of this. Actually, we're on the LID and also on the vacate on Deering. So I just chose one part of this to talk on everything. This is actually, for this piece of property, is actually its second LID because we go from 109th to 112th. So we've been participating in both sides of this. One of the things that we've been able to do is when they did 112th is actually bring the sewer down and bring it across the slough. So, you know, I want to, and this was one of the things, they weren't able to have any type of being able to bring a sewer line out the back of the property if there was any more development in the future, and they were able to figure out how to do this when they did 112, so we really appreciate that as well. Andrew Abbey has worked extremely hard on this whole entire project, keeping all the neighbors informed and keeping us all up to speed. One of the biggest things is we have about 130 some employees that work at River City Environmental. The nice part about it is the safety aspect of being able to have the sidewalks out there, and also the street lighting at night has been a big addition to the neighborhood. We really appreciate that. Let me see here. I forgot my glasses when I came up here. Along with our employees, they are livable wage jobs that we have for all of our folks. And we also need more employees at River City Environmental. Our slogan is that we believe on and we work for is River City is working together for a cleaner environment. And that's one of the things that we've done on our site there. Actually, we put an additional swell on our site, so none of our stormwater was actually leaving our site. We were able to work with the city, and we were batch about 20,000 of our stormwater gallons at a time, and we can reuse those for our jetting on our trucks and sweeping. So we do a lot of filtration and reuse our own stormwater, so nothing leaves our site. So for our additional, we're trying to have less impact on the slough, which the previous folks before, all their water did, or a lot of it ran off to the into the slough, and we were able to change that when we came on site. We've had a lot of time to talk with the neighbors and work with Andrew on the planting and the mitigation of what this would look like when it's done and when the council has approved this. So we do wish that that everybody is able to sign off on this.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Commissioner Fritz.
Mr. McGinnis, you mentioned that you need more employees. Are you actually hiring at this point?
We are.
And what
yes.
kinds of jobs are you hiring for?
We have everything from washing trucks to sales folks to drivers, which we need the worst way in the world. You know, our drivers are being paid from starting out to from about 21 or 22 an hour to 35 an hour. We need additional office staff. We're hiring another engineer.
Well, thank you for providing all these good living wage jobs. If somebody happens to be out of work and watching Channel 30 at home right now, how would they get in touch with your company? You know,
actually, call us, River City Environmental, 503-252-6144. We have, there's a list of jobs. We're looking for about 40 more employees at this point.
Fabulous, thank you.
Super, super. And one last thing, if I may. What we've looked at doing with all of our neighbors, we said we get this all put to bed. We'd like to have a neighborhood party because there's been 3 LIDs. I don't know if you know that's been done in the neighborhood, and kind of celebrate where we're at and looking to achieve another one or two. There's a few pieces of the streets we'd love to have you out. I think Corky had or Andrew or one of them had said that they'd like to have you out and introduce you to the slough and see the area, and we'd like to have a party, invite you all, and just see what what's been able to be done in the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's very generous. Thank you all. Does that complete public testimony, Carla?
I believe that's all who signed up.
Very good. So, Commissioner Fritz.
Just before you pass
Sure.
on, I want to commend Commissioner Saltzman and Matt Grum in his office, because this has been on the council agenda and back again a couple of times, and I really appreciate that they've taken the time to get the easements, and as one of the testifiers said, made it easy for us to vote aye. So thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you. And Andrew, thank you. These items numbers 372 and 373 are first readings of non-emergency ordinances. They move to second reading. Thank you. We have one item left. It's a second reading, item 374.
Assess benefited properties for street, sidewalk, and stormwater improvements in the Northeast Cooch Court Local Improvement District.
Colleagues, this is a second reading. The presentation's already been given. There's been public testimony. Carla, please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaly.
Aye.
Fritz.
Well, thank you again, Andrew Abbey. Thanks to Janine Gates and my staff who's been puzzling through these various challenging LIDs and street vacations. Aye.
Wheeler.
Great work, everybody. I vote aye. We're adjourned.